Part 349. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3495. This subordinate has always done well, so he doesn't believe that small things can bring him to such a state. As expected, Jia Yan was slightly moved by what he said. Sir, deep in the flames, there is a fire elf who has reached the level of great power. He suddenly jumped out and said that we have been searching and collecting, destroying his training ground, and he wants to devour us all. A powerful fire elf? Jia Yan's eyes flickered slightly. On the contrary, he was not as frightened as a subordinate for the first time. Instead, there was some kind of greedy emotion. I don't know how strong the powerful masters are, but if they are the powerful masters of the shimming empire below, he really won't be afraid. And how much benefit can a powerful person give? Moreover, the real body leaped over, and the body above the huge head was also exposed. It turned out to be a fish-like flaming life form. As an elf creature, the fire fish actually knows that there are no celestial demons, and as a longevity native, I have a long history of native masters. I have had contact with such demons as early as hundreds of thousands of years later. When the two sides are close in strength, small things are always the reason for victory. What I do know is that the fire fish creature cultivated by the flame elves can read the combat power of the spiritual creature in a short time. The feat pierced the opponent's flame jet. Since your majesty values his descendants so much, he should go and accompany us. The fire fish shouted angrily, and then retreated while fighting the spiritual creature. Why can I detect it one after another? Because the fire elf creatures I saw one after another are too powerful, and even I can't detect the Jia Yan aura that comes with them. Moreover, if my strength is G, will the fire elf, who seems to have such a bad temper, listen to my explanation? But after being here for a long time, I know that Xiaoneng's low-level players are not accessible to special people. Xiaoneng does not have his own living environment or his own circle in that small continent. I came to the heart of the native land. Outside the circle of life, it is difficult to interact with us. The fish-scale creature behind him moved his eyes and followed without saying a word. Let me take a look, don't worry. Besides, I am also a pure fool. I don't have any original power left in the lair to be used. If the spirit creature goes against its promise, I can go back to the lair, take out the original power and restore it to its full strength, and then continue the fierce fight with Jinji. Oh? Your Majesty is willing to hand over Jinji's power. Do you know what Jia Yan's power you need? Now that I know my identity, if you obediently surrender my elf's rule body to him, I might be able to spare his life. A world where the weak is respected is reasonable. Jinji snorted. It is also difficult for those exploration teams to explore in that environment all day long. He doesn't have the fire ability of your elf, and it's definitely not something he has just achieved. His talent for fire seems to be extremely extraordinary, right? Bear. On top of the overwhelming flames, one of the spiritual creature's feet fiercely pierced through a small amount of flame power. The two sides faced off in mid-air for a moment before being pierced by the spiritual creature's rules of power. The name of the devil probably refers to our overbearing and arrogant behavior, but, we are too powerful to be a monster? Wait, you are willing to hand over part of Jia Yan's power to share with him? The terrible strength. This elf firefish is actually a few degrees different from the villain's strength. The spirit creature laughed out loud and moved closer to its body, as if it was unruly. I saw a hint of sadness under the smelly face of the giant firefish, and gradually a certain kind of cold breath surged out from inside my body. That guy is actually willing to contribute the power of rules in his body? That was quite an unusual experience for Jinji. The spirit creature's heart moved slightly, knowing that those superiors must have used the technique of borrowing a knife to kill someone. That's right. Among local creatures of the same level, he is the only one who can fight to that level with you. Besides, the fire elf's temperament should have some sort of social circle. That's called being slapped in the face. Little man, this fire elf is not here anymore. It was like a blue jet that turned into red and blue rays and hit Jinji's direction. I'm afraid I really don't have Jia Yan's aura in me. Or should I say, my whole body is not made up of Jinji, and it is not the incarnation of Jia Yan at all. Just now he was talking about being cowardly, but now he was holding back half of his words. I was also shocked and frightened, and violently used the power of my flame rules. The spirit creature Xiao Fang Fang denies that what he really needs is the power of rules. Suddenly, the fire fish walked forward tens of thousands of kilometers away with a very ugly expression. Especially the fire spirit. Some time ago, the spiritual object presented by an exploration team was the corpse of a fire elf, with 2 full sets of regular spiritual objects on it. Very fat. The other party roared again, but it is absolutely necessary for him to kill this elf's child in order to realize his power of fire. Sure, it's true that he is a coward, and I will kill him next. The rules of power burst forth. Hey, Your Majesty just said you were brave, right? Now I am really confident. How about Your Majesty's style? The little assassin has been shrouded in mist. Bad devil. In this business, if the rules given by the cabinet are powerful enough, you can consider giving up. One foot slams into the other. The temperature of the magma is much lower than the temperature of the magma around us. Spiritual things are meaningless. The person who came here is very evil. He wants to kill fellow elves, and he will pay for it with his life. My body length from back to front is about 80,000 kilometers. Hey, then he was wrong. The villain has not yet broken out and used several methods. Here, at least the behavior of the spiritual beings has nothing to do with the devil, at least it is not overbearing. The spiritual attack has stopped, but he is still making heart-attacking words. Again, in the entire competition process, the main target that we competitors have to deal with is other competitors. Xiao Yan is ashamed. Since he is a demon, this place today is the burial place for his heaven-defying beings. Spiritual beings are fighting against a living being that is much smaller than the earth. Haha, Your Majesty's actions and words are the same. I really understand why Your Excellency is so thick-skinned. Boom. He knew that the villain hadn't resorted to any means yet. As an overlord-level creature that has lived in the flames for many years, my life has been very complicated, so complicated that it has become less than simple. The spirit creature was teasing me so straightforwardly that I actually felt red-faced. It's bad. Isn't it the power of rules that he talks about? Then, as a young man, is this what you, the demon, are asking for? The size difference between the two sides is reflected on the battlefield, like a giant beating dust. If anything, he is not looked down upon by the villain. You saw it with your own eyes. The villain defeated the alien space in front of you, retreated into it and took out a few rewards. Even the villain with such tricks, even though I haven't used it yet, it's possible that the firefish will win. The firefish had a sinister expression on its face and sprayed the flame from its mouth, and a blue heart of light crashed into the spiritual object. In a pure competition of strength, the rules of force are naturally weaker than the rules of fire. You will be able to explain something if you have done it. Is there any reason to attack that low-level person? If it is true, it will be too late to explain. That kind of elf creature is not Jinji at all. The semi-regular power is weak, but it is more than enough to be directly scorched by the opponent's flame jet. He could be killed in one blow, so there was no need to listen to any explanation. In the first battle, I might be neck and neck, but if the battle lasts for a long time, the spirit creature will bear the brunt, and I am afraid that my head will be missing, and even my life will be saved. Even after the powerful rule of power, it still didn't collapse. Instead, it held on tightly before it even collapsed. But everyone has thought that when that little man has mastered the power to intimidate the explorers we don't have, he doesn't have many means to attack even the low-level firefish. The strength of the native creatures seems to be no big deal in recent times. The eyes of the spirit creature bloomed with a glowing heat. The lava on my feet was bubbling, and it was extremely cold. Spiritual creatures don't have their own agenda. Suddenly, the fish scale creature whispered something to the spirit creature. Although the extremely powerful ones are definitely more terrifying than the Shiming Empire, they are even as powerful as the ancient wood immortal. The spiritual creature immediately understood. The little fish was too small, and the flames coming out of its mouth seemed so weak, but it actually required Jinji to go all out. So I immediately went to explain something. Now that there is no urgency or room, I can only contribute part of my original strength. Even if I bump into a low-level fire elf like now, it's because my superior's exploration team has affected the living environment of that low-level fire elf. Therefore, even if the superior had no unique ideas, Jinji believed that he would not be able to use his own strength to deal with it. A powerful one, definitely more than that corpse. Puff. Putting aside the ancient wood fairy that I saw one after another, I am afraid that this is the smallest life form that the spirit has ever seen in the outside world. Jinji raised his eyes and saw a giant flaming creature that covered the sky and sun, with a head emerging from it. The head alone was not as small as 7,000 kilometers away. The spirit creature observes things nearby eagerly and calmly. The spirit said, "In the face of that kind of regular fire object, the spiritual object, which has not even formed rules, has no impulse to release. It uses the rules of force in a roundabout way, wrapping up a small amount of formation defense skills, and fights with the opponent. Try to extinguish the flames." It seemed that many of the exploration teams had killed the elves and handed some of the corpse fragments to themselves. No wonder the spirit creature has always felt something strange about Jia Yan. The opponent's strength can be seen from just a few moves. As expected, he is not up to par although he only lacks the power of the flame rule, he is deeper than the low level. He does not have any special skills to say that he is accurate. After saying that, I got angry and came again to kill. When? Then, the alien space, is this a space that can only store objects? A villain can actually enter and exit. An earth-shattering roar spread across the sky. Although there are rules for forming broken flames, I'm stuck at a critical point, and it can't be said to be a semi-rule. A group of people were flying under the magma sea. The power of rules is not absolutely the less the worse. The addition of many rules will cause conflicts and gather energy, and there is no possibility of an increase in strength. And if you only focus on one rule, you will eventually become a top-notch person. It was very slow, and there was no one else in the exploration team to lead the way for the spirit creature. I immediately understood the reason for the other party's temper, and I also understood what tactics the so-called superiors in front of me had used to frame me. At that time, I knew that all the demons were difficult to deal with. Although the giants are constantly advancing, creating a sense of absurdity, judging from the energy released by both parties, there is no sense of harmony. He probably killed a fire elf, which made the low-level fire elf really angry. The spiritual creature Furui Korha responded. Jia Yan knew that this subordinate must have his own thoughts, but he was not afraid. Jia Yan stood up. "It's a prize, but it's better than the one who was born with the flame race." It was like a battle between a creature as small as 80 kilometers away and a giant creature as small as 80,000 kilometers away. It was more like a fight between two terrifying monsters as small as planets. The giant elf fish's eyes suddenly became sharp, and there was no trace of apathy at the same time. The scales of this huge fire elf flashed, and a small amount of flames spurted out from all over the body. Today you may be on par with spiritual beings, but in 100 years, you may be beheaded to death with only the bones left. It is through the depth of understanding of the other party's flame rules that the spiritual creatures can also be moved. A surging fiery force swept past the spiritual creature, and the huge fin sliced through Jinji's formation defense. But is it a dead end? You know, this fire fish has almost become a legend here, and it is different from the gods. I gave into the attack with a slight heartbeat, and then my eyes were focused on the giant elf fish that passed by me. Many people actually found out about him as a competitor from various channels. In the outside world, competitors are collectively called demons, but the devil is a joke, and everything depends on the competitor. Demonstrating the essence of hospitality. Looking at the problem from the perspective of the weak often only looks at the energy difference between the two parties. The fire elf didn't get angry for some reason. When he saw the spiritual creature, he suddenly puffed up his mouth and spurted out a ball of hot magma in an instant. The spirit creature laughed ferociously. The group of superiors in front of him had already dispersed. Although my outward actions were like this, in my heart I was very cautious. Puff. The spirit creature's eyes flickered for a moment, locking firmly on the eloquent elf creature. The firefish was indeed a creature that had survived for a long time. The few low-level players in the search team who were watching on the sidelines felt panic in their hearts when they heard this. Extremely weak, but it also means that my strength has declined too quickly. Today, if Jinji indulges his superiors in hunting down and killing my descendants, the elf firefish may still take action. Bad courage. Huo's expression was still ugly. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3496. The power of the rules is here. If you still insist on pushing me hard, I will have other means. A scorching light was delivered to Jia Yan. He was afraid that Jia Yan would want to kill him after he got what he wanted. Haha, Your Excellency understands the general situation so well, I won't be a beggar thy neighbor anymore, so what happens next? Jia Yan took over the spirit of rules. This is a piece of the opponent's fin, and the power of rules on it far exceeds the collection of all the power of rules he has obtained before. Such a piece of fish scale has such power of rules. How much power of rules should the opponent's body of 30,000 kilometers have? Jia Yan couldn't help but look at the other party greedily. The giant fish said with blood-curdling hatred, "Sir, do you know that if you swallow too much of the rules, you may choke to death?" Ahem, of course I know. Why are you nervous? Well, in that case, I will go back. If it is not enough, I will come to you to ask for it. Please be fully prepared. Say so. The next day when Jia Yan led this fish scale back to the station, he heard from his subordinate monitor that this giant elf fish, leading a group of his people, sank into the sand from the edge of the flaming lava and escaped. Hey, I already knew this guy wouldn't stick around, but it doesn't matter. I feel like the rules and spiritual objects he gave are enough. Jia Yan was speechless and choked for a moment. I am so scary. But it seems that if he doesn't have enough spiritual objects in his hand, and the other party is unwilling to give him any more, he might have to go back to his old business and ask his subordinates to hunt down other elven flames. Taking away one's own people and descendants in this way can be regarded as one of the ways to maintain the population. Who said he couldn't beat Jia Yan? Let the exploration team disband on the spot. If you are willing to stay here and work for me, please stay. If you don't want to stay, tell them clearly. Don't make trouble and let them leave. As soon as Jia Yan said these words, he really left like a strong man. The so-called exploration team he formed was actually semi-mandatory. Jia Yan didn't have much that the members of these exploration teams needed. For example, when Jia Yan was in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, he had studied the promotion items for Taoist masters for a long time, but found it difficult to research them. After all, they are semi-monastic researchers. No matter how talented they they cannot surpass the knowledge and ability accumulated over countless thousands of years in the other world. In addition to their advantages in scale and success rate, alien technology has advantages. When it comes to research systems, they are really not much better than local ones. There is nothing for promotion in hand. Those masters who had been trapped by Jia Yan for a long time, one or two, planned not to see this devil again for the rest of their lives, and many of them fled in disgrace. But if there are those who leave, there will also be those who stay. Sir, from now on, we are your private soldiers. If you need anything, just tell me. We will become the sharpest knives in your hands. A team of people stayed behind to follow this strong man who seemed to have a bright future. Although they may not be at the great power level yet, they can already defeat the great power. To them, this is like having someone on their lap. Jia Yankao responded. But there was some contempt inside. He didn't believe that all the masters present had never heard of the name demon. It's just a guy who wants to take advantage of his current strength and reputation. But they are actually working for him. As long as they don't go too far, Jia Yan will turn a blind eye. He estimated that he would be in seclusion for 3 or 2 months this time. During this period of time, whatever I wanted, I really needed the help of this team to move around. Save him from distraction. Buzz. Within the so-called Demon Island, a circle of light visible to the naked eye flickered. Jia Yan entered a state of seclusion and opened the yin-yang formation. For people in the other world, they understand the formation, but the formation with such principles is different from what they know, and it really attracts many admiring observers. But without exception, they were blocked from the formation, and there were Jia Yan's law enforcement team guarding them outside. Even if there were any unscrupulous and well-meaning people, it would be difficult for them to directly touch the formation. What's more, Jia Yan's formation is a yin-yang formation, and its defense power is extremely strong. It is not easy for a strong person to destroy it. It didn't take long for Jia Yan's subordinates to reveal their true colors. Under the banner of Jia Yan, they were unscrupulous in this land of fire, searching for their own benefits. Among them were not all the masters who had sacrificed their lives for Jia Yan, but were robbed by them. But almost no one dared to resist. That master is now in seclusion, and no one knows what his attitude is. Maybe these law enforcement teams will really distribute the benefits to Jia Yan? If you offend that person, you may not be able to survive in this area, and you may even lose your life. After finally handing over their belongings, many people became disheartened and left this land of flames and lava. Jia Yan naturally didn't know the situation, and even if he knew it, he probably wouldn't have any special feelings. The life in the other world is nothing to him. 2 months later. Buzz. Waves after waves erupted in the sea of flames. Finally, the sound of morning bells and evening drums vibrated the soul and spread far away. A large number of masters felt their chests tightening when they heard this sound that shook their minds, but they had no idea where the sound came from. Only those who knew the inside story or reacted quickly set their sights directly in the direction of the Tianmo Island. Many people are murmuring, the devil has really succeeded. It seems that this land of flames cannot stay any longer. But before this group of people, who only thought they would have a hard time in the future, could make any moves, the heavenly demon who had just broken through the power of the rules jumped onto the ground before anyone could react. High altitude. You can take care of yourself, I'm leaving now. Leaving now? Seeing the figure that looked like an antelope hanging its horns, with a breath of breakthrough, suddenly disappearing at the end of the world, many people reacted. They set their sights on the law enforcement team who acted like a fox and pretended to be powerful. These law enforcement teams were dumbfounded, and many of them were sweating directly behind their backs. This is Jia Yan. He didn't even say a word to them, and just left after the promotion was successful, leaving Ji Shen to suffer everyone's anger. It's not like this, right? Who asked them to act in Jia Yan's name? Although Jia Yan is in seclusion, this is just a breakthrough in the rules. For him now, he has already had a lot of experience, and his whole mind can explore the outside world. After learning about their behavior, even Jia Yan felt that these so-called subordinates were cruel and needed to be punished. And his method of remediation is also very simple. That is to leave quickly. Without a backer, they will soon become a street rat that everyone yells at. As expected, not long after Jia Yan left, the land of flames and magma became chaotic. Countless treasure hunters who suffered so much were caught and beaten up by the law enforcement teams. Although the strength of the law enforcement team is good, they are facing an angry crowd with more than 100 times the number of people, and one or two experts cannot do anything. Unless there is someone like Jia Yan who has the strength to suppress everything. Unfortunately not. I can only bear the anger like a rat crossing the street. Jia Yan is not unaware that those subordinates who help him will encounter such situations. But he did so deliberately. You want to ruin your reputation and still want to enjoy the spoils of war? Let's escape the victim first. But in the past 2 months, I really want to thank them for guarding the border, allowing me to break through calmly. Jia Yan was a little excited when he thought of this. He broke through. The power of the fourth rule. Fire rules. That fish scale may have been calculated to give him just the right amount of breakthrough. After 2 months of hard training, I finally raised my perception to the maximum limit, and finally obtained the power of the fourth rule. From now on, the rules of his power will be superimposed on the rules of fire. These two most upright and powerful combat rules will probably make a huge improvement in his strength. The next step is to find someone of the same level or with similar strength, have a good fight, and turn the gains into combat power. The opponent does not necessarily have to be a competitor. Jia Yan turned into lightning and thunder, shuttling through the air. With the power of several rules, not only Chang Chun's strength has been greatly increased, but his speed and various combat-related skills have also been astoundingly enhanced. Jia Yan was not too cautious this time. According to his opinion, there should not be many competitors with the power of the four rules. Because not everyone is like him, they started to toss the power of Taoism from the beginning. For the power of rule perception, most competitors use the power of perception spiritual objects to gradually master new rules. But Jia Yan was different. When he entered the other world, he began to actively come into contact with the power of cultivation in the other world. No, it should be said that when he first entered the other world when he was weak, he began to practice Taoism and actively came into contact with the atmosphere of this world. This was the finishing touch. Under this contact, he took the initiative to possess the aura of the other world. As a result, his understanding of spiritual objects gained many advantages, and the effect was 2 to 5 times that of others. This is why, he has felt the aura of competitors several times, but he has never felt that there is even one who is above the rules and seems to be different from himself. My power of rules these 4 times, not to mention ranking first, has definitely entered the first echelon. Even if I encounter a stronger competitor, I will definitely be able to compete with them. Jia Yan has been releasing his aura, running rampant in several larger areas. It's okay to have a competitor. If you can't beat him, you can still escape. But what he found this time was not the competitor he had been avoiding before. But when jumping over a new jungle, I suddenly noticed a huge deep pool below. It is said to be a pool because to the existence of the other world, this is not even a lake, and it is extremely deep. But for Jia Yan, it was an extremely huge ocean, about 200,000 kilometers wide, and the depth inside it couldn't even be explored with his brainwave power. I don't know where to connect to. Jia Yan didn't pay much attention to the natural environment here. When he was passing by this place, he felt a terrible force, jumped up from the center of the pool, then splashed a piece of water on the water, and landed again. What a strong aura! Although I'm not a competitor, it's just you. He locked onto the creature, wanting to cause trouble. The life below that had fallen into the deep pool just now jumped out of the pool with an ugly expression on its face, staring at Jia Yan, who was falling down menacingly. Just now, he jumped out of the pool and felt the aura above him. He had deliberately shown weakness and dived into the pool below, but the other party refused to let him go. This is how he, the nearby overlord, could endure it. Is it a dragon? Good guy, this is a water dragon. Jia Yan saw the opponent's figure clearly, his expression changed several times, and finally turned into fighting spirit. Your Excellency, I won't kill you today, just fight with me for 100 rounds. A layer of flame suddenly surged up on Jia Yan's feet, and then with the rules of force, he crashed into the deep pool below. A deep pool hundreds of thousands of kilometers long is the ocean to him. But when its attack fell, the water in the entire pool surged crazily, as if it couldn't withstand such an astonishing momentum. What? The rules of fire are extremely sensitive to the long dragon in the deep pool. Water and fire are incompatible. He is a life form with the attribute of water. Moreover, he has been in this deep pool for a long time and has a deep understanding of the rules of water. Even if there is no other enmity today, he will definitely have a bad feeling towards Jia Yan. What's more, Jia Yan's search for Shiyuan really aroused his extreme disgust. You did it yourself. You're seeking death. This dragon in the water, as a dragon-like creature, is full of arrogance. Seeing Jia Yan attack without saying a word, he immediately knew that the person coming was evil, and he couldn't hold back his anger, and sprayed out a water arrow. Well done. Jia Yan's eyes moved slightly, and he directly sprayed the flames from his feet. The opponent is also a master who has reached the level of water attribute rules, which is probably enough to defeat him who has just arrived in the other world. But now Jia Yan is no longer Wu Xia Meng. The rules of power. What? Is there a new power of rules? How much power of rules does this guy have? In an instant, Jia Yan's flames annihilated the water dragon creature, and its eyes were about to burst. He was already a native creature with a strong water attribute. The inexplicable attacker opposite him had the power of 2 rules in his attack, and he felt vaguely that something was wrong. What a powerful power of water rules! Jia Yan felt the aura when the power of both sides was exhausted, and was immediately very satisfied. As long as you are careful, this new opponent will not be easily defeated by you. Of course, he couldn't go all out, otherwise it wouldn't be a problem for him to kill the opponent now. Killing someone without any grudges wouldn't be a big deal. Jia Yan still pays attention to some principles. If you say it's just practice, that's just practice. Puff. The power of a formation trapped a mass of water vapor in front of his eyes. Ah! You, who are you? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3497. At this time, the opponent's successive attacks were resolved, and Jiao Long could no longer bear the shock and anger in his heart. Passerby. Jia Yan was too lazy to say anything more. He had no idea about the water rules and didn't want to kill the opponent. He just came here to practice his skills. Don't tell me, just a passerby. Seeing that Jia Yan refused to say anything, Shuo Jialong used his special skills in a fierce voice. Most of the water in the entire pool was attracted by this move and flew out of the pool quickly, covering Jia Yan's entire body. What's this move called? Jia Yan asked in surprise when he saw that Hunter was happy. The name is Heavy Water. If you are brave, enter my water and fight. Hey, I went in even though I knew there was something wrong with your water area. Am I out of my mind? Jia Yan snorted sarcastically, and then walked around a huge water ball, only to see that the water dragon actually got into the water. If he wanted to attack him, he could only enter the water. Come in if you can. What kind of hero is it to be a coward when something happens? I am alive and well in the water. You attack me without authorization and then accuse me of being a coward. Yes, you are just a turtle with a shrunken head. You will only dare to hide in the water all your life. How can you be a dragon? You bastard. Jia Yan revealed the softest part of his heart to the water dragon. He felt furious and ferociously swept a long tail out of the water. This body of water has a diameter of 5 to 6 million kilometers and is huge. Standing in the sky, it is bigger than a star. When it throws out its tail, a piece of water actively surrounds its tail and protects the entire tail. A fairly strong defensive force was produced. What a dragon wagging its tail! But others are dragons, and you are just a turtle wagging its tail. Roar! The dragon's tail was filled with the anger of the water dragon, and it hit the Nyoda formation defense in front of Jia Yan. The rules of strength, hold on. The rule of power was suddenly opened at this moment, blocking the entire incoming huge dragon tail. Rule of power. Only then did the water dragon feel Jia Yan's power, and his expression changed again. That's not all. Fire only rules, burn it for me. Just when the other party felt deeply uneasy, the power of a rule that was extremely opposite to its own rules rose up. The so-called water and fire are incompatible, and this is the situation at this time. A huge flame rose up, covering the opponent's entire dragon tail in the flames. The giant mosquito that seemed to be only about 60 kilometers away actually caused burnt marks on the dragon's tail that was hundreds of kilometers long. The water dragon screamed and withdrew the dragon's tail. At a glance, the entire dragon's tail was burned to black. Groan. After he distressedly used the dragon clan's secret method, the dragon's tail instantly returned to its original color, but this was only on the outside, and the internal fire damage could not be cured so easily. It turns out he is the one who has mastered the rules of fire. Is he causing trouble for us, the rules of water? The other party's frosty expression finally turned into murderous intent. Fire and water are incompatible. In the higher world here, there is a huge conflict like racial conflict. Many races even ignore racial conflicts and only fight against races with opposite attributes. After all, this is related to the orthodoxy battle between water and fire, which is said to have lasted for hundreds of thousands of years. It's whatever you say. Jia Yan's intriguing smile made the other party think that this was the truth. Try my water arrow skills. The water dragon immediately shot out a large amount of energy from the water, hitting Jia Yan's defensive wall that was superimposed with flames. It seems that my fire rules are not well integrated with the formation, otherwise the defensive power can be improved to a higher level. While Jia Yan was actually fighting, he felt his own shortcomings. The rules of fire have just been established, and for him, this battle is a good way to test its practical application. Formation and fire rules should be quite useful superimposition effects, but unfortunately they are not well used yet. What a defensive formation! What formation are you talking about? Seeing that there was nothing he could do with Jia Yan's formation, the water dragon's eyes became more frightened, and a melancholy signal for help was emitted from his waters. Jia Yan sensed it and made no move to intercept. Because he had never thought about killing the opponent, and he didn't seem to be able to intercept the signal for help sent by the opponent using the secret technique of water rules. The water dragon roared, then his eyes became quite serious. There was a loud whine, and the water in the entire body of water turned into the shape of a large city wall, standing proudly in the air. Can the power of rules still do such a thing? Jia Yan murmured. This was really an eye-opener for him. Playing with water in such a way, even though the other party only has one water rule, playing the water rule in such a way shows that he has a very deep understanding of water in this way. That's right, it originally lives in water. Inside the walled city, a large number of watermen appeared, setting up bows and arrows on the wall, and quickly shot down a shower of arrows. Although Jia Yan definitely didn't care about the ordinary rain of arrows, this was a technique used by a rule master, and Jia Yan had to avoid it. The power of the formation surged, covering his body and turning into a larger mosquito shadow. A foot whipped quickly, scattering a large number of arrow feathers. There was a loud sizzling sound. The two sides fought back and forth for a while. The other party was not a fool. He saw Jia Yan using unique power rules and other techniques from time to time and convinced him. But once he gained the advantage, he immediately used the flame rules, giving himself the advantage he had finally gained. Does this guy seem to be practicing his fire rules? Humph, he's actually using me as a punching bag. It's so infuriating. The water dragon was relieved in his heart, but he refused to admit that he was afraid of Jia Yan. In addition to the fire rules, this invading mosquito enemy actually used other techniques in one go and defeated him completely. Judging from the casual feeling during his training, if the opponent went all out, he might actually die. Can't beat it? So when he learned that this mosquito had no murderous intentions, he relaxed slightly. However, this relaxation makes the whole move less stable. Puff Bear. A flower made of flames landed on the water city wall, immediately igniting a large area of the wall. Fire boils water. The city walls are boiling. Damn it! The water dragon clapped his claws fiercely, and personally extinguished the flames on the top of the city. Sir, if you want to train the rules of fire, I have a more effective way, but you have to agree. After I help you achieve your magic, you have to leave this place, but are you willing? Oh? You actually have such skills. I agree. Jia Yan also doubted that the other party knew his purpose. Anyway, he originally had the intention of not killing the dragon, so it was normal for him to be seen to have no murderous intention in his actions. Regardless of whether the other party is trying their best, as long as they achieve the original intention of training their skills, that is enough. As for whether he will be resented in the future, he is an outsider in the ancient wood continent of Nyoda and left. If the other party wants to take revenge, can the entire continent search for his traces? My technique is water bombing. It is a very simple technique, but it will be improved step by step. It is very complementary to the training of fire skills. Of course, using water bombs will also have a certain training effect on me. If you agree, I will try my hand at it now. Come on, I won't attack your body. Jia Yan wholeheartedly agreed. Withdrawing all the formations and rules of power, they saw that the other party also disappeared Nyoda's stronghold between heaven and earth. Water bombs formed in the air. Jia Yan discovered that water rules also have their benefits. As long as there is water around us, those water sources will be turned into the most reliable energy and even weapons. This water dragon has obviously studied the rules of water to an extremely advanced level. If compared, its overall strength will probably be higher than that of the fish-scale fire elf that it dealt with before. Very strong. But Jia Yan was unafraid, even nonchalant. Because he has the 4 rules in his body, he is even more powerful. I already have this confidence. Ruiaoruao's spirit locked on Jia Yan, and then the water bomb fell down. You can use your fire rules and my water bombs to annihilate each other. Jia Yan followed his words and began to blend water and fire with the other party. Puff puff. The world was filled with the sound of water and fire extinguishing. Gradually, Jia Yan also felt the convenience of this training method. As the other party improved the level of water bombs, he even felt a little difficult. Don't be too nervous. As long as you concentrate on this matter, you can continue to execute it indefinitely. Okay. Gradually Shui Jiao entered the role of teacher and actually gave guidance to Jia Yan. Jia Yan was also happy to have the other party give him all his money. Isn't it just that he was taken advantage of in a verbal argument? He could bear it. The two of them were attacking and defending, as if they had entered an infinite loop. Not long after, the sky became dark and bright, bright and dark again. In the pitch-black night, Jia Yan's expression moved slightly. Feel something. Are you coming? He took his time and looked at the water dragon that was communicating with him. The reinforcements called by the other party have arrived. I am afraid that their strength is not inferior to that of the water dragon. Jia Yan silently weighed his own strength and became lighter. He wanted to see what the water dragon's attitude was like. Originally he didn't want to kill anyone. But if you deliberately don't kill someone with good intentions, and the other party doesn't want to appreciate it, and wants to attack him in a group, then don't blame him for being ruthless. After all, it would be too unrealistic to ask him to show mercy under the siege of two rules experts. No need to take action, Your Excellency has turned our hostility into friendship. The water dragon took the initiative and roared openly toward a dark forest in the distance. Suddenly, another slender dragon flew out over there, looking at Jia Yan with satisfaction and vigilance. Immediately he also saw that Shui Jiao was forced to cooperate with Jia Yan's practice, nodded with a cold expression, and stepped back. After this episode, Jia Yan's attitude towards the water dragon softened. No matter what, this guy is also wise. Another full month has passed. Finally, the last rule of fire completely charred the water bombs like waves, and the water dragon stopped its offensive. Your Excellency, your skills are already quite outstanding. Although there are still many things that need attention, these are all wasted efforts. Please keep your original promise. This time, Jia Yan straightened his expression respectfully, hugged his feet and said, "Thank you for your kindness. I came here uninvited. Please accept this little rule." Jia Yan once had so many subordinates and made many transactions, including water rule spiritual objects. So he can do it if he hands over the water-ruled thing. Thank you. The other party's expression softened a bit. For the powerful people in the other world, the rules are not very useful, but they are definitely not useless. At least they can see the attitude of this uninvited guest. Suddenly, Jia Yan turned into a flame and shot into the sky. This guy is really hateful. Sister, why don't you join forces with me to kill him? In the woods next to it, another long dragon that had been waiting for a long time flew out, and it was actually full of the power of the rules of fire. No wonder Shui Jiao has the skills to train the rules of fire, and his younger brother is the rules of fire. No, you and I are both people who have been eager to seek the truth. This person may have the power of 2, no, 3 rules, and the power of the formation that scares me. If it's you, if I join forces, it will really be a fight to the death. Maybe you and I will die, so we might as well be kind to others. Humph, next time I see him, I must make him look good. Woryui Changlong started to talk a lot, but he didn't see any action, because he also knew that they had no choice but to eat it. Bear. Good guy, in just half a month, my control over the fire rules has become much better than half a month ago. Jia Yan in midair and turned into a flaming mosquito. He didn't even use the power of the formation, he just looked for the fire power in the space along the way, and used it as a driving force to automatically continue his flight at a high speed. He didn't understand this technique at all before, but after half a month, he automatically mastered it. I couldn't help but thank the water dragon slightly in my heart. Although he assisted me only under his coercion and inducement, he didn't fall out, so it was a matter of face. It's a pity that when we meet again in the future, it's impossible to repay this small favor. Thinking of this, he also sighed with sadness. In life, many things are like this. One thought is an enemy and another is a friend. How can there be so many sure things? Huh. Just as he was about to reminisce about his long life, Jia Yan's expression soon changed slightly. He raised the detector above his feet. On it, two light points appeared that were approaching and separating quickly. Two competitors. Is it true that, just when you have great strength, you meet two colleagues? Will God take care of you? He sneered. Regardless of whether it was a compromise or not, after sensing the approach of the two major competitors, he flew over without blinking. The two seemed to be at war with each other. One of them was at a disadvantage, while the other was chasing after him quickly. And when the person who was at a disadvantage collided with Jia Yan's light spots, he quickly approached Jia Yan's direction. Obviously, he was trying to lead the enemy to Jia Yan's location, muddy the water, and then escape. Thoughts? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3498. Is that really true? It's not ruled out that it's a trap. Jia Yan thought of this possibility. But he was fearless. As expected, he could resist the two competitors steadily. Unless both of them are top-notch competitors, and even so, Jia Yan believes that relying on his various powerful skills, there is a chance of escape. His strength is improving by leaps and bounds. If he still runs away when he encounters danger, then he has done nothing. With determination in his heart, a formation force followed Jia Yan's will and suddenly spread out. It encompasses the ground and the nearby sky, covering it entirely. Hundreds of thousands of kilometers of territory have become the world under Jia Yan's control. This is also one of the powerful methods he possesses after he has achieved great success. The approaching mollusk was blocked by the inner layer of the small array, and its entire body was instantly blocked by the blue film of the small array. And then, blue light surged inside the small array, spewing out a bolt of thunder and lightning. Jia Yan has already optimized his formation. But the gains before were definitely not as small as they are now. Roar. We are actually bad friends from the same galaxy, and we were assigned to the same small continent as soon as we were lucky. The seven of us worked together in the same boat and killed one enemy after another, even if the fight was too late. Yes, even if they join forces, they can escape with their lives. It can be said that Meng is an out-of-focus alliance. Among the competitors who have reached that point, there is really no one who is easy to compete with. Jia Yan looked at the Tyrannosaurus Rex creature with interest. Of the two competitors, one was like a mollusk, while the other was an ancient dinosaur, different from Tyrannosaurus Rex. Whether we settled accounts in the past or not is a matter of the past. Now, we still have to work together to deal with the small crisis in front of us. The formation formed by the weakest formation gene is hidden inside the special yin-yang formation. Enemies that are not weak enough will be dealt with using the Bibai formation before they are imprisoned in the formation. Hey, I'm really looking for death. 7 of them are going to do it. The relationship that had lasted for hundreds of years in the outside world suddenly disappeared in the blink of an eye. I originally thought that a mollusk acted as a think tank, but did I expect that one of the two, the seemingly lightweight Tyrannosaurus Rex, acted as a think tank? Humph. Does your Majesty think that if he takes action, this person will let him go? I and I are from the same small continent in the outside world. It was extremely bloody as soon as it was over, and we killed several of our fellow competitors. Now that I am chasing you here, I may let you go before I kill you. I've known for a long time that they have bad intentions. Formation, start. That time when I kicked the iron plate, my pride dropped a lot. Hearing this, the mollusk snorted, but stopped attacking. In terms of the ladder to heaven, 40 steps? Or 47 or 8 steps? In short, we have reached perfection, but the difference is too little. Jia Yan clasped his feet and continued to watch. With the blessing of the power of the formation, the expansion speed of the already pressing formation was doubled. Jia Yan looked calm while waiting for these two competitors who seemed to be disorganized but were actually approaching intermittently. Xiao Yan is ashamed. That friend, you are right to take action first, but if he really thinks that you allow others to bully you, then he is wrong and is seeking his own death. Jia Yan's figure gradually emerged in the center of white and white, between the two yin and yang fisheyes, looking quite majestic. After all these factors are combined, I'm afraid my strength has already exceeded 3 to 5 times what it was before I came to the other world. He stayed to resist me for a moment. Along with that chuckle, the small formation suddenly expanded the area covered by it, and the speed was extremely slow. The attack power is not very heavy, it must be to surprise, resulting in sufficient power. Walk. In fact, we now believe that if our two competitors join forces to kill one competitor, it is still true. The Tyrannosaurus Rex scratched the small formation with a claw, causing the small formation to shake violently like water ripples, but it returned to normal in a moment. I am also reminding myself that this mollusk friend is a special character. Even if we have the strength to join forces, as a competitor who has reached this point, it is nothing to say that even my brother knew about it. Sukfu was too careless about his methods of hurting the enemy, and would have set himself on fire if he was right. The 7 of you must have deliberately pretended to fight and attacked other competitors unexpectedly. Did you know that you used such a method to attack several of your comrades? After a while, the world was spinning, and I actually fell into the envelope of the formation. Jia Yan was simply surprised. I have seen many similar incidents in my life. Jia Yanro laughed, and then suddenly released a piece of formation blue from the surface of his body. And the competitors are the same. Each of the competitors here is the best in their respective galaxies, and even the best in many galaxies. The ones left at the front are the low-level players who are 1 in 10,000. It is really impossible for these two competitors to compete with each other. I have experienced it myself, so I fundamentally believe in the so-called friendship of the weak. On top of the threat of the formation, half a beat can be the difference between heaven and earth. Suddenly, the mollusk snorted fiercely and shouted to the Tyrannosaurus Rex in front of him, that guy was indeed fooled and joined forces to do me. The mollusk looked at it with a sinister look and did nothing. He was thinking about his current strength. The two of them are naturally strong men. When they sensed that Jia Yan was about to use the small formation to devour us, their expressions changed cautiously, and they rushed forward together. Sukfu still looked on with meaningful enthusiasm. The body of the 4 rules, coupled with the power of the formation, the ability of yin and yang, and the explosives that can explode and damage the enemy at any time and at any time, in addition to the power of his magic weapon. Oh! You want to see what that person can do? My friend, he should die first. Even if he is no longer promoted to the level of almighty power and goes directly out of the world, in the galaxy, he belongs to the first echelon of mighty means. Even if there are any hidden domain masters and lower level masters, I'm afraid he can also split the difference. I suppressed my complacency. I want to contaminate you and fight. Your friend has not yet fallen into my formation, so that friend should also withdraw and accompany me. Haha, you two are indeed an eye-opener for me. Don't worry about the one who came back. I will be with him soon. You actually control the means of people from the outside world. That time, as soon as they stretched out their hands, they felt the weakness of the giant mosquito creature behind their eyes. The 7 of them knew that the weak ones who surpassed us were invincible. Suddenly, their faces showed that the attack was a hit, and they fled away from the distance. Thoughts? Puff. When I attacked, Tyrannosaurus Rex said calmly, if he attacks you, it will only benefit me. The Tyrannosaurus Rex made eye contact with the mollusk, and its expression became solemn. But when it hit my chest suddenly suffocated. Among the 2 people who were running away, the mollusk that was being hunted looked fiercely at Jia Yan, and said with a heartbroken voice. In the distance, 2 figures seemed to be really fighting. Jia Yan watched enthusiastically. Jia Yan smiled. Just when I was about to sing about my life, I felt in my heart the overwhelming power of two mountains, gradually approaching from the distance. Let's speed up. It's useless to say so little now. How dare you show up? As long as there is not enough benefit, any weak person can immediately abandon the so-called ally. For a moment, Jia Yan was filled with sighs. The blow was so unexpected that I felt like I could dodge it. The mollusk was not yet scarred, but when he saw the so-called brother walking in front of him, he roared sinisterly. The mollusk's eyes are about to split. Buzz. The mollusk speaks with threats. Although the two of them have seen the actual power of the formation, how could they know that being enveloped by that formation would be a trivial matter? One has a red face and the other has a white face. The idea is prickly. We are just willing to get hurt. Coming. It's just that your majesty is worried about me, stay here. He suddenly sighed. Regardless of whether those two are really fighting each other, I just need to stick to my heart and be safe. Jia Yan's eyes flickered, and there was even a hint of hostility. He looked like a friend who had no life or death battle with us. As expected, the Tyrannosaurus Rex attacked the latter again, shifted its gaze to Jia Yan's body, and let out a menacing roar. None of the comrades explained that the disadvantages must be shared, and the other party may also cooperate with Jia Yan's promotion method. You two are indeed bad friends who were once bad friends. The speed of your return to evil is really touching to me. It's bad. Lock me and this mollusk brother into the same white formation. No matter what, it's better to run away. Among the competitors who have reached that stage, which one has no confidence in himself? The two of them are arrogant and want to destroy us all together. Jia Yan is also very considerate. If your competitor is willing to help, you will reward him accordingly. The lightning hit a certain part of the man's soft body, making me groan. My body suddenly shrunk, and I stared at Jia Yan with a cold expression on my face. Jia Yan shook his head. What kind of person is Jia Yan? Not 10 of the enemies I have ever killed were about to turn back and run away at the last moment. Seeing us showing similar emotions, I suddenly laughed. Since you have killed 2 competitors, you should think about today. I also know that you have killed 7 such competitors, so there will be no less harm. Sure enough, such a method is actually very suitable. I must have joined forces with Kalen, and I am afraid that I may have killed several competitors now. Jia Yan became frightened and moved his toes in a roundabout way. As if I was not prepared, a small formation suddenly rose up like wind and clouds, covering a small piece of the sky with azure color. He even thought of giving up the competition immediately and returning to his hometown. Crack. Tyrannosaurus Rex was more direct. Big bug, he knows what's going on. He turned around and ran away. The 7 of you may still chase him. If we look at the situation clearly, death is his only ending. A space split open, and under the Tyrannosaurus Rex's unbelieving gaze, it hit my chest directly. The mollusk's entire body expanded even more. Its small body, which was only a few dozen kilometers away, expanded like a piece of paper, covering the sky and the earth 10,000 kilometers away. Suddenly, I ran even harder. Seeing this, the Tyrannosaurus Rex became even more decisive. He stretched out his claws and threw the mollusk's body in front of him, crashing directly into the formation. The Tyrannosaurus Rex stopped me. I'm trying to be impulsive. If the person dares to show up in person, I'm afraid this place has already turned into an iron wall. If he rushes over, he will fall into the trap. Raging. The Tyrannosaurus Rex's eyes were also timid. Although the formation was very strange, I thought that I could still break it by working with the mollusks around me. Now that the alliance has reached that point, how can we still trust each other in such a condition that it is over? If we get injured, we may be able to take advantage of it. Buzz. It is even less likely that he is the first person above Xiaoneng. Now that we've come to this, it's helpful to say less. Let's start the war. What a bastard. The Tyrannosaurus Rex dodged behind the formation. Seeing the mollusk being swallowed by the formation, it retreated directly into a situation where life and death were unknown. How could he know that Jia Yan's formation was far more complicated than what he saw on the surface? Horrifying. For a moment, the Tyrannosaurus Rex's expression turned ugly. Sure enough, it's hard to even escape. That person's strength is far beyond what you and others thought. Halfway through, the mollusk's body suddenly surpassed the Tyrannosaurus Rex beside it. You killed 2 comrades, no wonder, your exploration area is not as small as theirs. After all, we have joined forces and have gained a lot from our adventures so far. When we return, we will definitely be able to sweep everything in the pre-region lord level. In the middle of the conversation, Jia Yanra suddenly shouted loudly. The mollusk felt that the formation immediately separated into a formation, shrouding me in it. The formation suddenly turned into a white world. The Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was immersed in flying behind, still forgot to chat with Jia Yan. Hey, thank you, and if you can let me go, I promise that I will cause trouble for you again. I guess it's not very difficult for you to control this brother of yours. If you are missing one more, I'm afraid that you will. Is it good to eat well? Damn it. Then the speed increased by half a beat. Mollusk wanted to wear the same pair of pants with his former bad friend again, so he said, the bad call comrade knows that even though you are talented, you have already used such means to kill 2 competitors. If you want to follow in our footsteps, please honestly let go of the formation and wait until everything happens. So it's hard to say which one is better or worse. The 2 of them spoke in unison at this time, and their expressions became ferocious. After going through that test and dying here, I am afraid that all my insignificance will be turned into legends. Even the young masters in the galaxy know how weak I am today. We have seen that Gu Jing is Bo Sufu, and he has actually thought about negotiating peace with us. This mosquito has a bad breath. Mollusks seem to be able to be solved by these 2 formations. Jia Yan also wants me to be solved directly by the formation, as long as I delay it. 7 of you, since you have taken action against me and want to leave now, you must be thinking that you are in trouble, right? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3499. What a big appetite. The 2 of them stopped talking and took on their strongest fighting stance. In the black and white formation, ripples rippled out in waves. It even swelled to the point of crumbling and about to explode. However, it was accompanied by a biting and indifferent voice inside, the rules of time. The rules of fire. The 2 earth-shattering sounds quickly subsided amidst the loud roar. A few more breaths passed. The formation automatically dissipated into the sky, revealing the ruined battle scene inside. A giant mosquito stood proudly in the void without a single scratch on its surface. He looked at the battlefield where there was no one left, and he couldn't help but shake his head. And the other party is aware of me. The giant mosquito quickly left the place. Moreover, there is a very small chance that Jia Yan's strength has surpassed that of the original creator. The other party may never have thought that the race he created would have a person who is close to retreating to the level of Xiaoneng hundreds of thousands of years ago. Low hand, so I have never considered anything more perfect. As long as Jia Yan's space talent is weak enough, if he can pass through the land covered by the formation, travel a sufficient distance inside, and then break into the subspace, will he have completed the space travel? Jia Yan looked at his former ally teasingly, with a confident smile on his face. Even if he knew it, he would have nothing to express. Yes, it was even closer. Rules for spiritual objects, but anyone can perceive things. Just after killing the 2 competitors, Jia Yan flew out of the way to recognize his 8 relatives, and suddenly noticed that a light spot appeared in the detector that he had enlarged to a small extent. It has to be said that now he can be regarded as one of the best among competitors. Not to mention coming out on top, at least he is also a strong Zyoku in the first echelon. Judging from the traces of the battle, there was only one enemy who took action. Seeing Jia Yan's actions, the Spider King also understood Jia Yan's thoughts. He was moved for a moment and nodded slightly. I used to have no ambition, but it's a pity that you are as talented as President Jia Yan. After all, you are the best choice among all. You have given up. That competitor, Xiao Bai, is a game that only a genius like you, President Jia Yan, can join. Instead of dying at the hands of a genius, you have been really good lately. High profile, if you feel the aura of a competitor, you will run away thousands of miles away. That Gomuzilu is small enough. If I hadn't bumped into your eyes, President Jia Yan today, you wouldn't have seen him for several months. Comrades. On the other side of Jia Yan, he completely knew that there were not many local low-level players in front of him to test our pre-war scene. But is there anyone who has reached the level of the two competitors just now? When we were following those two competitors, we were discovered and beaten up by the two competitors. It's a pity. The belongings of these two people are not outstanding, it can be said to be very poor. I'm afraid there are other hiding places in the outside world, but it's hard for me to find them. Two heavenly demons died like that, and the enemy was also a heavenly demon. Such existences must not be weak at all. The light spot escaping behind me felt that the speed of the enemy approaching in front of me was not something I could get rid of. I immediately extinguished all hope and stood still, waiting for Jia Yan's arrival. That subspace will follow Qiu Jian's subspace talent guidance and move with him, and will be affected by the formation's release in the local formation. The competition in that level was to kill as few competitors as possible. I could guarantee that I had only killed 8 competitors to see if I met the conditions. Jia Yan, on the other hand, looked at his former friend with a faint smile. If I am weak enough. Therefore, Jia Yan really struggled with the rules of the wood system. After swallowing so few wood spiritual objects in the edge of the plane, but not having even the slightest sense of the power of the promotion rules, I realized one thing on my own. It is possible for him to understand the rules of the wood system. What if you want to file a report? I sighed slightly inwardly. In addition to the wood system rules, there are also water system rules, gold system rules, etc., which seem to be destined for Qiu Jian. The bad thing is that there are still no rules. For example, you can only understand the water rules, but you don't have the wood type. Your talent for the wood type is really poor. You probably swallowed a few wood type rules. It is also possible for spiritual beings to understand the rules of the wood system, so those things are almost useful to you. The state is not yet 40%, and it is still impossible to kill the target that can be killed. If you encounter a hit, you will still be able to defeat it. Even if you use all the means, you will still be able to hit it. The enemy will always come to trouble me later. For the sake of the weak, I must take the initiative to attack. At least I didn't have the confidence to escape, so I wasn't determined at all at this time. But he himself was safe and sound, not even a hair was hurt. It's a pity that I still can't do it now. Now. It's not that your talent is not enough. Judging from the few competitors you know, we seem to be at the forefront. There is a small chance that we can reach the power of 7 series of rules with at least 8 series of rules like you are now. There are not many of them yet. This consequence is something that the local forces can bear. The two sides are still here to meet each other. The two sides met very slowly. Jia Yan continued to smile intriguingly. That is also the power of rules that Jia Yan wishes he had most. Of course they are my other heavenly demons. If those heavenly demons are wrong as you expected, before they come to the world like you, they will enter into a competition with a certain purpose, and very few people will die each time, and those people will be killed by your native land. The weak will be killed by our own competition. At this time, Jia Yan could now feel the other person's breath. Well, those 7 can give you some confidence. Before awakening to the rules of the fire system today, that point became even clearer. Haha, you just got the clues of the 7th level and went back to your hometown to make preparations. You forgot to communicate with President Qiu Jian. Please forgive me. Those figures were all low-level masters with overwhelming momentum. The Spider King couldn't figure out why Jia Yan was able to develop the strength he has today. Gomuzilu is extremely small. Qiu Jian nodded. The Spider King was so frightened that he retreated forward again, and said with a wry smile, "Little man Jia Yan. You don't have much information at all. In fact, you haven't realized your own level. Recently, you have just been shopping for spiritual objects in the ancient wood continent. I will send you once you have mastered the power of the 7th rule, you will return to your hometown and strive for the opportunities you had before. That was far less powerful than what I am today. Your Excellency, you must know that the devil is difficult to kill, and killing it has no consequences, but there is only one kind of existence that kills us as a matter of course. Yes, the Spider King is just unlucky. Otherwise, the location where these 2 competitors were just now would have passed him by the Spider King a few times. With our joint approach, we would only encounter such strong competition. There is no reason to let it go." The smile on Spider King's face was awkward, and there was no trace of belief in it. What's even more incredible is that I feel Jia Yan's strength. After all, he is a former ally. Although Jia Yan also lacks a kill quota, he can always do it with his heart in mind. Jia Yan consolidated his gains and deliberately threw several regular items into the treasure room divided in the subspace. If the Spider King can be in the 1st grade of junior high school, I can be in the 17th grade. Our relationship now depends entirely on Jia Yan's likes and dislikes. He believes that the original alliance relationship exists. Killing the Spider King in exchange for the current points is also a matter of course. Possible things. Sure enough, now that I am dealing with 2 ordinary competitors, even if I join forces, I don't have much pressure anymore. What exists? After flying for a while, the light spot here seemed to feel Jia Yan's arrival. The light spot was firm for a moment, and there was no sign of struggle. The 2 master competitors who lost their figures were naturally killed by Jia Yan with thunderous force. But the 2 competitors who were extremely terrifying in our eyes actually died here. Jia Yan, the villain of the president, he is bad. It's been a long time since I've seen him so bad. I never thought I could see him here again. The relationship between the 2 parties is pretty good. Under my current body, there is a vague power of rules. Friends who were equals at the beginning may become bad friends again when we meet again today. When both parties directly felt the other's aura, they both showed a hint of surprise. For example, Jia Yan, my talent is already top-notch. Another competitor, if we want to compete later. It's quite embarrassing. See you soon, in the Spider King Pavilion. Other competitors do not have Jia Yan's ability to store items in subspace. These 2 use the space storage equipment that is loved by masters in the other world. The body of this beast was originally intended to be perfect, which is why Jia Yan is not in the current situation of the 7 little rules. Spider King. It's just that Qiu Jian has been gone for so long and has already forgotten this person. The Spider King was weak at the beginning, but under the previous path, Jia Yan has become so weak that he even thought that the Spider King could reach where he is now. Well, Jia Yan was not firm. Jia Yan flew towards the light spot. Several figures rushed here like a shadow, and then they all slowly became dumbfounded. In Spider King Pavilion, you left even a letter at the beginning, which really made me worry a lot. Now that I see that you are intact and missing, I am even more worried. Jia Yan approached. After all, subspace is not subspace. Its surface is blocked. It is always possible to block the entire subspace. Oh. Did the little Spider King once have no ambition? After thinking about it right and left, I still made enough hesitations to make a decision. Oh, he's a very sensible guy. But now that you've set your sights on him, you won't be able to escape. Whoosh. Although the local weaklings and forces are not extremely weak and can even suppress us, they will definitely influence us during the competition between competitors. At first, the two sides agreed to retreat together, but before the Spider King achieved his request to kill the first level, I disappeared and went to prepare for the 7th level. I didn't even leave a single letter to Qiu Jian. The purpose is to leave even a trace of information for Qiu Jian to pass the first level. Don't forget, Jia Yan has no space rules and no possibility of success. Jia Yan was startled, and then showed a meaningful smile. Did these two people say they are heavenly demons? Why are we dying here while the legend of heavenly demons still rings in our ears? The subspace has risen from a powerful period and has accompanied Qiu Jian throughout his life. So far, the subspace in the outer world has been so poorly used, but it is still the weakest self-protection force in Jia Yan's heart. No matter how perfect it is almost possible. How long? You have something to be angry about. When you saw something happen to you, you became worried. Is it because the Spider King's pavilion didn't receive any information about the content of the competition? It's just that eating like this is too ugly. The Spider King awkwardly hugged the spider's feet. That's right, let's file the report now. I thought that I actually walked to Gomo continent. The detector, which has been enlarged less than twice in size, now has an absolutely unparalleled detection distance, so it can detect some unusual information about competitors. A subordinate who was walking at the front could not help but look back at the battle scene, and then shuddered. But when I saw Jia Yan seem to be flying straight towards me, the competitor in the light spot, I suddenly gave up my illusions and turned my head back to go forward. But no matter how perfect it is, there is no limit. Do you still need to wait for the next report? I'm afraid those two people just died and have always been extremely sensitive. Opposite, the long-lost former alliance partner, the Spider King, stood in the void, staring blankly at the current Qiu Jian. The two competitors just now had a certain impact on Qiu Jian's strength, but it was negligible. The formations and other methods I used had a very small impact on my own strength. At least 10% of my strength was lost. Compared with the competitors with the power of the two general rules, I am afraid that they are stronger and stronger. To get there, it can be said that there is no certain luck. If I could understand the rules of space, Jia Yan estimated that I would still not have a certain ability to travel through the low-level continent blocked by the formation. Of course, I also did things that were not hostile, and I just left information for Jia Yan. Sir, Spider King Pavilion, since you have no intention of entering or exiting, I will give you a piece of advice and leave as soon as possible. Now, I am afraid that there are enough competitors left to do this. It is wrong for Gomu Xiaolu to be weak, but the remaining weak ones will probably go all out to search the Gomu continent. At that level of weakness, the risk of you being detected is very small. If you can find you, others will not be able to find you. That's all. In the future, if you don't have time, I hope to see you again one day when we can sit down and drink wine together. Status and strength are the same. Even if they agree with each other in their hearts, it is still impossible to look back on the past. A moment ago. But there are a lot of things hidden. Jia Yan was a little disappointed when he opened the so-called space storage. The actual principle was not to find objects other than subspace storage. Qiu Jian can forget it. That's right, you still have to retaliate, otherwise. For competitors, our opponents are just different. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3500. Latest website. After Jia Yan finished speaking, he turned and left under the complicated gaze of Spider King. After a while, the Spider King roared behind him. "Goodbye, brother. I have decided to quit now. If there is an opportunity in the future, I will go to your galaxy to sit as a guest and enjoy the wine together. Please don't turn me away." After saying this, without waiting for Jia Yan to respond, he added, "In addition, I believe that brother, you will be the one to achieve greatness. Congratulations in advance." Ha 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 ha. Jia Yan felt so heroic for a moment that he left laughing loudly. Enemies are necessary in this world. But you should also have friends. Although this friend is still estranged from me to a certain extent, he is not too dirty and is still worth making friends with in the future. Otherwise, wouldn't this life be extremely boring? Of course, the more important point is that Spider King must not be able to bring much benefit to Jia Yan at this time. Most of the things in the world are just for profit. It is a rare thing for many people to not forget their true intentions when pursuing profits. The fact that the Spider King has come so far is really amazing. It also shows that luck can also dominate the entire situation, rather than purely relying on strength. Jia Yan believes that the basic way Spider King got to where he is now is through luck. His aura really couldn't arouse Jia Yan's interest in fighting at all. Compared with when we cooperated with mainland China, the improvement was very limited. So, among the people I've met, Kalen is pretty good, and Hai Tian. Jia Yan thought about it, not sure how Haitian should be positioned. If he went by the strength shown on the last side of the Imperial Island, Jia Yan believed that he would not even have the chance to reach the present. Because on the surface, he couldn't defeat the Spider King at that time. Spider King relied on luck to reach this point, but without a certain level of strength and luck, it would be impossible to come to the ancient Wood continent. Besides, Senior Haitian didn't even think of coming to the central continent at first. Isn't this completely wrong? Jia Yan put it aside and thought about his former friends. Up to now, too many people have been eliminated. Many competitors with good talents have fallen somewhere forever before Jia Yan saw it. It is possible for anyone to be eliminated. The 4 major rules, plus the growing space rules, if I can come up with the 5 rules. Thinking of this, Jia Yan couldn't help but feel elated. With the 5 rules present, can we reach the level of great power? Maybe it's not enough, but it's definitely a level of strength above the 99th ladder. Today, he feels like he is almost at the top of the 99th floor of the ladder. Various methods are available. For example, it is difficult for outsiders to judge what level of formation ability there is. Maybe they can move up a level. Back then, when I was in the central star field, I felt some kind of huge formation-like ability that isolated the entire black hole area. Now it seems that it should be the powerful person who took action, using the monastic formation in the other world. I have the power, and now, if I really want to do it, I can do something similar. Once the strength is achieved, many things that were once amazing or even miraculous have become a matter of course. The black hole area has blocked a large amount of the central starry sky. Including the central black hole, and the 4 giant stars are locked inside. It may be difficult for Jia Yan to replicate such strict defense, but he can use the current yin and yang dao to roughly lock the cosmic energy in an area without spilling out. It may take a long time to travel hundreds to 1,000 light years, but if you can do it, you can do it. In this way, the fear and shock in your heart will be reduced a lot. When the 5 rules come together, perhaps the strength will be greatly improved. Even if I don't think about the competition now, as long as I can achieve the 5th rule before the competition ends, I will definitely make enough money. Now that Jia Yan has reached this point, he still has a strong desire in his heart for the opportunities that come with being powerful but not powerful, but after knowing how terrible his opponents are, he doesn't push for it. When it's his turn, he strives for it. If it's his turn, it's enough for him to just complete the set goal. The goal at this stage is still to achieve the power of the fifth rule. Spatial rules. Spiritual objects are not so easy to find. During the search, I did not have to encounter competitors who fled like before. Anyone who dares to disturb me can fight them. If I can beat them, I will kill them. If I can't, I will kill them. It shouldn't be a direct death. Jia Yan determined this path. Immediately, a shadow of a giant mosquito roaring in the strong wind flew across the sky. This is a sky of nothingness. It's extremely twisted, yet filled with a certain kind of tranquility. Many looming figures live among them. Haha, your galaxy is really full of capable people, and you have the new 4 rules all in one. A slender figure suddenly laughed. Beside him, a shadowy figure appeared. It was a figure covered in snow white. His eyes were fixed on a certain area in the illusion, and then a figure belonging to a giant mosquito appeared there. The snow-white figure watched without any emotion for a long time before saying, "I have seen this boy before, and he has potential." The slender figure didn't expect that the snow-white figure would be so complimentary. He couldn't help but look back at the snow-white figure and said with emotion, "Oh? Do you really think he can reach my level? Well, I'll give you some of the attention, see what is unusual about him being so valued by you." Similar scenes will always appear next to the figures every once in a while. But no one present could guarantee whether the competitors they were optimistic about could really achieve their level. It would be great if there could be a few more of us this time. These are almighty. Among this group of powerful beings, we can even see a few supergiant beings like Optimus Prime. For example, the Shenmue Immortal. Another example is the several life forms that are more than 20,000 to 30,000 kilometers high. They are obviously the local mighty people from the other world. But this group of powerful beings did not have the slightest hostility towards the powerful beings from other galaxies around them. They seemed to regard the other world as a base for incubating powerful beings and did not care about the powerful beings in the other world. As a little-known participant in the galaxy, Jia Yan appeared for the first time in the eyes of these powerful people. But Jia Yan didn't know this. He is just plotting his own goals. He didn't even know that there were a large number of high-level experts watching the battle in the distorted land. Well, the so-called space spiritual objects, according to the information I have recently searched, should be the easiest to find in the southeast corner of the continent. Jia Yan unfolded a map. This is a rough map of the ancient wood continent that he pieced together after searching for a long time and finding many forces and various characters. The Guma continent is so big that it probably covers many light years. Therefore, even if it is a super large force, unless it reaches the level of a giant force such as Tiangong, it is impossible for other forces to own the entire continent map. The version that Jia Yan put together was not very accurate. Many of the maps between the forces even had inconsistencies. He tried his best to eliminate the inconsistencies and finally managed to put the map together. The southeast corner is the southeast direction of the continent. Because of the war that took place more than 1,000,000 years ago, many areas are still desolate. Even because of the existence of a mighty level battle, several areas of space were extremely chaotic and have not been restored to this day. Affected by it, many spiritual creatures with the power of void were produced. That kind of void spiritual creature is Jia Yan's next target. But to go to the southeast corner, you have to use the teleportation array, otherwise you can't use subspace transfer. I'm afraid I don't know how long it took for the competition to end before I get to the southeast corner. A few light years away, but a real distance. No matter how fast Jia Yan is in ordinary space, he can fly for a long, long time without using subspace. How many years does light travel? No matter how fast it is, can it surpass the speed of light? Therefore, using the teleportation array is an inevitable method. So when I arrived in an environment like the other world, I started to envy those who have ordinary flight methods. I don't use subspace, and my transfer is slower than them. For example, Kaylin used a certain method of poisonous mist to wrap herself in a poisonous mist, which increased her speed and was really not slow. However, Jia Yan does not have weaker alternatives now. That is the way to rush by superimposing the power of time on the array, and he himself has quite excellent space ability. Although it is not at the level of rules, it can definitely be of great help. Buzz. Jia Yan drilled into a blue space. The formation created a piece of space into a world that was semi-isolated from the space of Guma continent. Immediately, the time rules affected the formation itself, and he suddenly increased his speed. The speed was not slow, roaring as fast as lightning and rushing away. It's just a bit too flamboyant, which doesn't quite fit in with Jia Yan's past behavior. In the past, no matter how fast he was, Jia Yan didn't like this method of movement. After all, it was easy to provoke powerful enemies. But it was different today. He had to hurry, and his strength was completely different from before. There was nothing wrong with being a little more showy and self-confessed. Flying at full speed, he soon reached an altitude of 5 million kilometers, gradually gaining altitude. The sky in this world is very high. But because Jia Yan has already arrived at the Guma continent, which is an upper continent, he may have reached an altitude of tens of millions of kilometers, and the space further up is limited. And there are large formation restrictions. When Jia Yan flew to an altitude of 50 million kilometers, he suddenly felt a restricting force and could no longer fly. He looked above his head. Originally a blue space, it was almost close to the subspace of the outside world. It seems that there is only a thin film, and it can fly out with just one force, but Jia Yan doesn't dare to try. The membrane in space this time definitely has a shocking defense, because it is not made by a strong person at all, it is simply a force of nature. In the face of nature, even a master like Jia Yan, or even a master with a powerful level, will appear small. He gave up continuing to break through and instead flew at high altitude. Ouch! Passing by a mountain forest below, a mountain elf life turned into a long dragon, which seemed to be of wood attribute, and jumped into the sky. 50 million kilometers can be reached in the blink of an eye. But Jia Yan's speed increased again in an instant and disappeared in an instant. The wood-attributed elf was left staring at him with a gloomy expression, and then retreated into the forest with a cold snort. Although someone had offended its territory, since it was flying from high altitude and was so powerful, it was impossible for the elf to pursue him to the end. Therefore, even if the altitude is only 50 million kilometers, it is enough to avoid many obstacles. In this way, Jia Yan can relax. He was not heading towards the southeast corner openly. Instead, he flew according to the center point of the big city marked on the map. The southeast corner is difficult to fly. But the nearby big city is not that far away. The Guma continent also has forces and cities. In the plain area where Jia Yan is located, there are several cities that are definitely large enough. It spans hundreds of billions of kilometers and covers an extremely vast area. My friend, please come down and walk. As Jia Yan approached the city, a voice from an expert reached his ears. Is it a master level? He has almost reached the definition of a powerful person in the other world. Although Jia Yan is not afraid, he will not offend easily. There are also super powerful forces in this world, and there are real powers in it, such as the ancient tree immortal. At least Jia Yan didn't want to offend him over this trivial matter. Fall to the ground. It's so prosperous. Jia Yan looked at the city extending in all directions. There are no city walls, and open residential areas are piled up in large areas. Entering the city, I saw busy traffic. They all have a bit of technology in them. And because the life's height and size are very prominent, it looks like it has entered the land of supergiants. They are generally more than a head taller than the life forms on the continents on the ground. There was a constant stream of hawking. It was rare for Jia Yan to experience life in an ordinary city in the world. When he finally entered the outside of a tall and towering building in the city, he felt the aura he had just felt in the sky. He stepped forward and asked the guard. In order to prevent the guards from scorning him and triggering a slap in the face scene, he deliberately released a wave of his own astonishing aura. The guard who was about to shout was so frightened that he urinated and quickly said he was going to report it. But it's no longer necessary. There was something in the guard's ears, and he respectfully invited Jia Yan in. Jia Yan has passed the so-called pleasure period, and the other person is a strong man. He is quite willing to meet him, but he really can't arouse the slightest interest in such a weak guard. Entering the building, I felt that this building is really majestic. Taking into account the height of a strong person who is more than 30,000 kilometers away, the height is almost 50,000 kilometers. It is enough to accommodate a lot of the earth. Walking in the direction where he had just released his breath, Jia Yan came to a gate, which opened automatically. This friend has come to the city to make it shine. I wonder what you are doing with me this time. The other party is a tiger-like life form that looks majestic in appearance, extremely powerful and domineering. But when facing Jia Yan, he was extremely polite. After all, this person seemed insignificant, but his aura was intimidating to him. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3501. Latest URL. Somehow, he had already guessed that this was the heavenly demon who only encountered it once in tens of thousands of years. The local rulers were very cautious about offending such a monster that could not be exterminated and might not be as powerful as the other party. I want to take the teleportation array to the southeast corner. Jia Yan said bluntly. Ah! Teleportation array. Isn't this? The tiger creature subconsciously wanted to refuse, but soon met Jia Yan's unwavering insect eyes. He shut his mouth. This is not a big problem. It's just that opening our teleportation array requires a certain amount of resources. This resource consumption. I'll come out, Jia Yan said calmly. He had acquired a lot of local resources before, many of which he couldn't use, so it didn't matter if he consumed them here. It didn't take long. Jia Yan's figure disappeared into a circular formation. Finally sent away, if one of these plague gods appears, there will be a second and third one soon. You must tell the people below clearly, otherwise you will accidentally offend one of them, and there will be endless troubles. When it comes to demons, the larger the force, the more frightened they are. Once every tens of thousands of years, there would always be a big incident. In the past, some forces wanted to resist, thinking that there were powerful masters, even mythical masters, in the other world, and they could not just sit back and watch these outsiders cause trouble. But the result was a huge disappointment to them. Those truly divine figures did not take action at all and turned a deaf ear to their requests. In short, sending this demon away now is a great thing for their power. Hoo. That guy is quite sensible. Our name of competitor is a bit too shocking. A dizzy feeling came over me. Before Jia Yan had time to think about the pros and cons of his competitors, he felt the world in front of him turn black and white, and he felt a strong dizziness, which almost made him lose his mind. He immediately thought that the force was trying to trick him, so he had to use his own life-saving skills. Fortunately, this feeling comes and goes quickly. The world in front of him returned to calm in an instant. I've met this friend, please ask for the teleportation array of this force. The person guarding this place is also a top master who has reached the level of the domain lord. But when he treated Jia Yan, he didn't look like a master at all. He just wanted to send this plague god away properly. When Jia Yan saw this, how could he not benefit from it? As a result, after a series of inquiries, the other party told everything about the southwest corner, so that Jia Yan knew a lot about the inside story of this place. Call out. A figure swept out of the stronghold where this teleportation land was located. Big forces are different. They even have such a huge stronghold in the far southeast corner, but such a force is also wary of my sudden competitor. This shows that competitors are really as fearful as tigers in the eyes of local forces. After Jia Yan jumped out of this stronghold, he looked at the map and other things given by the master, and flew straight to a certain direction. The southeast corner of Guma continent is a strange and mysterious place for local people. This place was the peak battlefield tens of millions of years ago. Many masters died here, and many ruins exist here. But other than that, its danger has blocked the urge of many people to come and explore. The best barrier against desire. Although the southeast corner today is much more dangerous than it was more than 100,000 years ago, the population is still small. As expected, it is a vast and sparsely populated place. Some towns are said to be neighbors. We may not do trade once or twice in our lives. Jia Yan has read a lot of information and has a basic understanding of this new world. And the most likely place to produce space spiritual objects is the Sea of Nothingness in the southeast corner. After he identified a location, he didn't stop at all. There was a shock just now. Dad, are you chasing me? Hey, Jinghong, it should be some master who came from the central region. He has the strength to not take our southeast corner seriously and chase after us to taste whether it is salty or not. A spaceship existing in the sky detected a long startling rainbow crossing from a distance, and the people inside directly gave the order to pursue it. Jia Yan, who was flying in front, felt the movement behind him and felt a chill in his heart. He had unreservedly unleashed the momentum of a top master, and the fact that this ship still dared to pursue him showed that the other party was unscrupulous. Well, just feel the power of the life forms in this area. What surprised Jia Yan was that when the spacecraft got closer, he used his brainwave power to explore the characteristics of the other party, and he actually felt the size and energy fluctuations that seemed different from his. It is said that the creatures that fought in this area were the competitors and local masters from ancient times. They left behind a lot of competitor bloodlines. So, are they the bloodlines left behind by other competitors? This warship is about 100,000 kilometers long. It is a little small for people in the other world, but it is still a behemoth that is far larger than the Earth. He stopped. Sure enough, it was a dragon crossing the river. Are you confident in your own strength? We must also be careful. After approaching, if the other party is willing to hand over a certain amount of property, we will not pursue the kill. There was a human voice on the spaceship. Jia Yan overheard it and felt funny for a moment. The strength of this spaceship is good, but it is just like this in the other world. The strength of the strongest is only at the lower level of Domain Lord. I am afraid that it is not even a good player in the lower level of Territory Lord. Jia Yan's strength when he first entered the inner world is enough to kill him. My friend, welcome to the other world. I wonder if you are satisfied with this welcome ceremony of our fleet. A figure not much bigger than Jia Yan flew out of the ship, his eyes flashing with gleaming light, and he looked at Jia Yan carefully. It's a unique welcome ceremony, but I'm on my way, so I won't play games with you all. Before I get angry, if there's something going on, it's better to speak out. Jia Yan said softly and calmly. The momentum on the opposite side was temporarily taken away by it, causing some commotion. But that's about it? Haha, my friend really likes to joke. Since we are engaged in this kind of business, how can we not have the skills to deal with masters? I wonder if you have noticed that there are some forces in this area that are not easy to operate. Is it difficult to operate the power? Jia Yan was surprised and soon realized what he was doing by using his cosmic power. He practiced cosmic power, and in this area he felt a strange energy that only belonged to powerful people was interfering with his ability to exert his strength. But this disturbing sound was extremely weak. As long as he paid a little attention, it would not cause any more disturbance to him. However, the interference belonging to the cosmic power in the air seems to be greater. Perhaps the other party regards Jia Yan as a life form in the local world. And because they themselves were the descendants of those former competitors, they were not greatly affected, so they dared to attack a master who was clearly above their level. Seeing that these beings were all cultivating cosmic forces, Jia Yan was silent for a moment and decided not to eradicate these guys. In a place like the other world, 1,000,000 years have passed and they still insist on the inheritance of their ancestors. Jia Yan doesn't need to think about how much pain and suffering they have endured. Of course, the premise is that they no longer seek death. Bear. A force far beyond imagination surged and exploded, blowing the spaceship flying far away. The master who bore the brunt was sent flying backwards, his eyes suddenly rising with shock. This power is the same power as ours? No, it's much purer and stronger than ours. He's from the ancestral land. For a moment, the robbers on the entire spaceship were ecstatic. But Jia Yan had already spoken before that. Do you understand? Everyone, seeing that you may have a certain relationship with me, I will not destroy you today. Don't catch up, otherwise I will withdraw my words. The people on the spaceship, who were originally full of enthusiasm, felt as if they had been poured by a basin of cold water, and their hearts felt cold. That's right, this foreign visitor from the ancestral land is said to be a person from the ancestral land, but their local people have also investigated and found that the so-called ancestral land is a place called universe, and its actual size may be larger than the entire Li. The world is a place countless times bigger, so who would mind such an unrelated branch like them? There may not even be any blood relationship between the two parties. Jia Yan finished speaking as coldly as ice, then turned back and flew in the designated direction. But the spaceship behind him was chasing after him again regardless of life or death. This is not giving face. Jia Yan was relatively easy to talk to the weak, but there was no way he could bear it if one person and thousands of people defied his dignity and ignored his orders. Senior, please don't do anything. We have something to ask for help from Senior. Jia Yan shook his head in warning, the strong follow their words. If I don't punish you, wouldn't my words be useless? After saying this, the strong man who spoke clearly did not get out of the spaceship, but he screamed, and in front of many subordinates and juniors, his entire arm was torn open. During the whole process, no one on the ship felt what happened. All those who saw this situation were heartbroken. Senior, before Jia Yan could take action again, the injured man roared in tears again. Even if Senior kills me, as long as I finish telling the story, I will die without regrets. He growled. Jia Yan snorted coldly. The other party obviously didn't understand what it means that the strong cannot be threatened. This doesn't mean he died without regrets. Jia Yan also planned to bury the entire spaceship with him. But then he stopped moving again. Obviously, the orphans of the competitors in this spaceship are very familiar with the southeast corner. In fact, he also felt that their ship had extremely amazing suppressive power against cultivators of non-cosmic power. If he were a master from another world, he might also be suppressed and die. This shows that they are considered local snakes here, and it may be helpful to their search for space spiritual objects. Jia Yan was immediately moved when he thought about how the progress greatly improved due to the help from a large number of ordinary experts in the Land of Fire. That's all. Since you have a certain relationship with me, I will spare your lives. Please tell me any difficulties you have. He suddenly changed his previous expression, with a kind smile like that of an elder. The interior of the opposite spacecraft instantly burst into celebration. After getting Jia Yan's approval, they simply let go of the spacecraft's defense. After all, it seemed that their defense had no effect on the senior in front of them, so it was better to be more generous. Jia Yan entered the opponent's luxury spaceship. It's really extremely prosperous inside and even has technology. Jia Yan looked intently, as if he didn't care about everything, behaving like a master. This state of affairs made the other party admire him anyway. Senior, we suffer from the lack of room for progress. The entire race is about to be destroyed. Senior, please give us some advice. The other party came all over the place with requests. Jia Yan looked calmly at the semi-cosmic creatures kneeling on the ground. In this world, whether in the inner world or the universe, there can be no free lunch. If you want to get it, you have to pay something. I have already said that, although there is a certain relationship with you and others, it cannot be certain. I want to help you. Senior, please tell me frankly, what do we need to do? It's very simple. Collect regular spiritual objects for me, with spatial attributes. Of course, if there are any regular spiritual objects, you can also eliminate them first. Every time you hand in a regular spiritual object, I will tell you a way to practice. The more you use it, the better. The more rules spiritual objects will bring, the more benefits they will bring to you. If you are careful enough and the treasures you bring back are good enough, I can even give you a cultivation method that is enough to reach the peak of the Queen of the Realm. The pie offered by Jia Yan is huge. Going straight to the pinnacle of the domain, this is something that the local cultivators cannot refuse. Don't think that Jia Yan Luzi has no cultivation skills. In fact, he had already collected a lot of cosmic power cultivation skills, and finally became what he is now. Otherwise, he would never have reached his current status if he had worked behind closed doors. It's just that relatively speaking, his path is more wild than that of the cosmic power cultivators. At least it is more than enough to teach some other world cosmic power cultivators who have obviously gone astray in their cultivation. We do. As soon as they heard that there was a cultivation technique that could lead to the peak of the Queen of the Domain, they went to Shiyuan and everyone was immediately jealous. Although their situation may not be in danger of destruction, until they practice to a stronger method, they will always be a second-class race. Even with the advantage of local combat, they can still deal with master-level masters, but their status lies here. There is no telling which day this area will return to the environment of the other world, and it will be time for them to perish. And helping the senior search for regular spiritual objects is by no means an extremely difficult task for them. Many regular spiritual objects are actually sold from their race of semi-cosmic power cultivators. For a while, the entire spaceship was crowded with people. Senior, we will take you to our race station to rest now. You don't need to take action. We will continue to bring spiritual objects back to you. Oh? That would be disrespectful. Jia Yan's eyes suddenly lit up. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3502. Latest website, Jia Yan also doesn't like to be in the public eye. As a top expert, it's not comfortable to spend time searching for supplies. If someone does it for him, he can still have time to polish his abilities after promotion. For a time, the news that this top expert from his homeland would stay in his own force spread among the so-called Vaga race. Jia Yan was also curious. This force regards itself as an outsider. Even though from his perspective, many have been purely hybridized and become native creatures, no one has given up on this. But maybe it's because the former competitors were simply too powerful. A large number of competitors have come to this world, leaving countless legends behind. Even if they are inaccessible to this race, it is enough for them to sell themselves as sheep and use the identities of competitors to seek benefits for themselves, but this is also gradually brainwashing themselves, making everyone in the race increasingly believe that they are from the outside world. Senior, we are suffering. Can you tell us about the outside world? No. As soon as Jia Yan checked into this race's spaceship, a group of groaning young people came to his house, pleading to hear something about the outside world. Jia Yan was thoughtful. The young man probably meant it sincerely, but the senior officials who allowed them to come probably wanted to use this action to deepen the relationship between their race and Jia Yan. But it doesn't matter. What Jia Yan wants is nothing more than a group of obedient subordinates who will work hard for him. Under certain conditions, he is willing to deepen the relationship between the two. Soon, the news about the outside world was spread one by one, and these young people were all amazed. It turns out that the outside world is completely different from what they imagined. So, Senior Jia Yan, you may have a very distant relationship with us, someone noticed it keenly. Yes, logically speaking, the possibility of us having a relationship with you is extremely slim, and can even be said to be non-existent. Then you are still willing to help our clan. It's very kind of you, Senior. It's just about helping each other. Jia Yan will not be held in high esteem. At least under the current relationship, if the other party has any trouble, he is determined not to take action. Not long after, Jia Yan followed the spaceship to the so-called Vaga tribe. A large number of people have already come to welcome him. Jia Yan discovered that the civilization here was not weak. Although it was impossible to reach the level of interstellar civilization, there was a time when people on Earth had not stepped out of the interstellar space. The lights are bright. When Jia Yan came to the city of this race, he was escorted by a large number of police cars, and there were cheering crowds on the streets, rubbing shoulders and heels. After staying in the top-notch housing, he sighed, "The nobles really value me for such a grand welcome ceremony. Haha, seniors don't have to worry, they are just very concerned about the people coming from the ancestral land." Jia Yan's tone suddenly changed, "But don't try to take advantage of this situation. I'm just doing business with you. Do you understand what I mean?" I understand, Senior, please don't misunderstand." For a moment, after Jia Yan said this, the whole scene became silent. But he didn't feel disappointed or anything. It was just eye drops that he had to apply beforehand. Otherwise, if these guys really used his name to do something and provoke powerful enemies, he might really be dragged into the water. There are all kinds of life forms in the entire race. Just when Jia Yan was scanning the entire city, he sensed several people with space talents. If they were people in the trade area, he might have gathered these people together and trained them to see if they could pass on some of his legacy. But here, it's impossible. But it also aroused his interest, and he became even more excited about the possibility of having spiritual objects in the southeast corner. About his deal with this racial force, word spread at this time. As a seemingly relatively isolated race, but actually quite powerful in the southeast corner, the Vegas tribe has always been a thorn in the side of certain powerful races. After they heard that a top expert from the outside world had joined the Vago tribe for unknown reasons, they all shrank as much as possible. Because there is a large amount of cosmic power in the southeast corner of the ancient wood continent, top masters generally do not come here because it will slow down their cultivation speed. And the addition of such a top expert to the Vago race means that within a certain period of time, they will be almost invincible in this area, and they will not dare to provoke him. But they don't know. This top expert only has a cooperative relationship with the Vegas race. If they really fight, he may not be able to help each other. The entire large race moves very efficiently. Moreover, Jia Yan seriously doubted that the other party's racial secret treasure contained the space spiritual object he needed. So on the third day, the first spiritual object was handed over to Jia Yan. It is indeed a space spirit creature. You have done a good job. According to the negotiation between us, I will give you some cosmic power cultivation techniques. Jia Yan handed over some of his cosmic power cultivation skills. This is something he has collected throughout his life. It cannot be said to be high-end, but something that can be taken out by a domain master is naturally not comparable to the skills that this race has discontinued. This, I'm really grateful to you, Senior. After taking a quick look at the techniques, The captain of the robbery ship who handed him over burst into tears. The Vegas tribe seems to be thriving in the southeast corner, but only senior officials like them know that they have reached the end of their rope. After millions of years of war, this area is gradually returning to its original atmosphere of the other world. If they can no longer improve their strength, when the monastic power of the other world completely covers this area, the entire race will truly be destroyed. What they lack is the cultivation skills to enter the high level of domain lords. Jia Yan gave exactly this kind of technique. Although he could not directly cultivate to the lower level of domain lord, he also said that he could trade this kind of cultivation technique with him by using two space spiritual objects. After the captain left, Jia Yan also looked at the space spirit object in his hand with great joy. Very good. This spiritual object feels like something that has not been unearthed for a long time. And it is a subdimensional object that fell out of space. Jia Yan's subspace ability has always been something he is proud of. But in the subspace of this area, it would be difficult for him to move freely even if he went out. It's so profound. But what looks like a fruit in the hand is actually composed of subspace chaos. It is a disorder from subspace. This object has a considerable effect on space masters, that is to say, it is a space spiritual object. Buzz. Used treasures are completely your own. Jia Yan immediately started refining. Feeling everything about this spiritual creature in this space. I see, this is how the space has reached an extremely condensed state, I thought too simply before. Once Jia Yan came into contact with the real top spiritual creature, his eyes were immediately opened. Among all his talents, his self-awareness of space is the strongest. Previously, I just didn't have the conditions to comprehend space, otherwise I would never have fallen to the fifth rule, so I came to comprehend space. At this time, he only felt a space spiritual object, which gave him many insights. I don't know how much time has passed, but his unique residence has been quiet and undisturbed. One day, he finally sighed with regret. No more, I always feel that the effect of this kind of enlightenment is much better than other things of enlightenment. Sure enough, there is talent in the world, and my talent in space far exceeds others. He sighed and said that he still had more to say. Looking at the time display on the smart brain, I couldn't help but be slightly surprised. It's been 2 days. I don't know if 2 days will be enough for them to gather another space spiritual object. Jia Yan got up and came to the outside world. There is actually a master from this clan who has been waiting outside for a long time. Senior, something happened. We went out to explore the location of the spiritual creature. The spacecraft we had previously found was attacked and crashed. Oh? Is the person I contacted earlier dead? Yes, Captain Gyuda is a hero of our clan, but he did die during that treasure hunting trip. Jia Yan didn't look sad. After all, we only had contact for a few days. In contrast, he was more concerned about what was happening to his spiritual creature. What about the spiritual creatures? The new contact person looked embarrassed and said, Senior, we are negotiating with the attacker to see if we can trade materials with the other party. Jia Yan thought for a while and said calmly, forget it, tell me the information about the other party. If it's not too troublesome, I will take care of it myself. However, this spiritual object cannot be exchanged for such good results, it's law. That's natural. As long as the seniors take action to scare the monkeys, it will be easier for us to collect in the future. The contact person who spoke had a look of surprise on his face. Jia Yan did not criticize the other party, fearing that this was their purpose. Let him take action, whether it is to bring the relationship between the two parties closer or to scare Xiao Xiao, it is enough. But this is also what it should be. If the other party has been harassed by outside forces, the process of searching for spiritual objects for you will be extremely difficult. Rather than slowing down your own progress, it is better to take action to settle the matter personally. Boom. You, As a top expert, you are actually taking action against us. Aren't you afraid of being attacked by other top experts? Haha, since I have taken action, I am not afraid of this. If there is anyone capable behind your power, I will be waiting in the Vago clan. Jia Yan held the stolen space spirit object on his toes and left with a bohemian expression. The leader of the force behind him knelt on the ground with an extremely embarrassed expression, and it took him a while to vomit out a mouthful of blood. Lord, should we wave that person's communication flag? If that person takes action. No, this huge human creature with a height of 15,000 meters violently waved his arms down and said with a gloomy face, I'm afraid he is not the opponent of this one. Just now you thought he was. Did he use all his strength? No, far from it. This person is probably second only to the myth on our continent. If Xinhui doesn't take action, he is invincible. And I just heard that this person is against that person. The Vago tribe claims to be from the outside world, so it is really possible that he is the legendary heavenly demon. Facing the heavenly demon, let alone the one behind us, even the super powerful force behind him probably has a sympathies with him. Yan, from now on, when our forces confront the Vago clan, we will make concessions and we will not provoke them if we can. This is. For a time, word spread like the wind that the Vago tribe, which was relatively well known in the southeast corner, had invited a being who was considered a very powerful person among the top masters to take charge. The reputation of the Vago tribe is greatly enhanced. It turns out that because they behave in an arrogant manner and always claim to be a race that is not from this world, many forces have regarded them as a race of fools and do not want to play with them. But today, this race has suddenly become a race that has attracted much attention. Moreover, many races knew about the heavenly demon. When they saw that a top-notch heavenly demon from the outside world actually stayed in their race, and was willing to do something for them, rumors about the Vago clan that they might really be an alien race began to spread. It became more. Although Jia Yan did not have this intention, he was gradually regarded as the protector of the current Vago tribe. While the Vegas tribe was trading with Jia Yan, this goal was successfully achieved. In the days to come, they will have a good racial status for a long time. However, when Jia Yan leaves or this competition ends, the status of this race will probably plummet, and they will even become the rats that everyone wants to beat. Of course, the Vegas tribe has their own plans and ideas, but Jia Yan won't think so much for them. Another one, haha, I didn't expect it to go so smoothly. Jia Yan returned to the temporary residence prepared by the Vago tribe for him, took out the spiritual objects he had obtained again, and felt very good. He dismissed all the Vago clan service personnel and once again realized the space spiritual object in his hand. This spiritual object still came out of space. This time, his consciousness was fluctuating, and he could vaguely feel the birth process of spiritual objects. This spiritual object was originally an object floating in an extremely deep space, and there were many similar floating objects around it. One day, when it was floating, it was actually affected by some kind of terrifying force, falling out from the depths of subspace. It was then used as a means of attack by a certain powerful person, and the opponent's attack completely destroyed each other. The battle is over. The life and death of the powerful one is not known, but it stayed in this new world and was treated as a treasure. It was tossed back and forth from the hands of many forces until it met Jia Yan, who could absorb spiritual objects. This, I can actually see the first memory. No, this should not be a memory, but a picture of the growth of something. It may also be related to my own talent. Jia Yan felt the birth and destruction of the entire spiritual creature, and felt that his understanding of space had been further deepened. And he tremblingly experienced the fight between the mighty ones. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3503. Latest website. This is the first time Jia Yan has experienced the power of a truly powerful person. After experiencing it, he felt goosebumps for a while. This kind of power, can it really be matched by me when I achieve the power of the 5 true rules? He had deep doubts about his own judgment. But it is precisely because of the hardship that when I complete the 5 rules, I will have a sense of expectation. If you are sure now that your achievement of the 5 rules is comparable to that of a powerful person, then you still have little hope. But precisely because of these pictures, the level of understanding of great power has improved. Jia Yan smiled slightly. The most terrifying thing in the world is actually the unknown. Once it becomes known, even if the gap is huge, it will no longer become something to be afraid of. Especially for the strong. Maybe the great powers never really show up because of this. Jia Yan had this idea in his mind. No matter what, I still need to collect more spiritual objects now, and from these spiritual objects, I can feel more scenes of the battles between powerful people. It is really useful to me. Jia Yan's thoughts about spiritual objects became even stronger. Especially when he learned from the pictures of these subspace spiritual objects that in the Great War here that year, the powerful person who used subspace items to fight might be a subspace powerful person. His inner joy became even more intense. Very. It was as if every spiritual object he obtained was personally taught by the great master. It is impossible for anyone without Jia Yan's level of subspace talent to understand that person's methods. After Jia Yan took action and killed the powerful master in the southeast corner who dared to steal his spiritual object, he fell silent again. But most of the forces in the southeast corner have become extremely afraid of the Vago clan. The Vago clan themselves did not waste this opportunity. Under the pretext of collecting supplies for that person, they extended their tentacles to all aspects of the southeastern corner. The technological means that the Vegas people have been pursuing have brought them convenience in communication. Therefore, the news spread quickly. Many forces got the information that the Vago clan had powerful people in charge. It was revealed by the Vago clan themselves, and there were many things that the Vago clan could control. At least in their vague information, a large number of forces didn't know much about the extent to which the powerful Jia Yan was willing to help the Vegas tribe. Therefore, they were wary of the Vago clan's expansion of power, so they could only turn a blind eye. This has also resulted in the Vago tribe's actual action efficiency being greatly improved. Just when Jia Yan had just digested the second spiritual object, he heard another report from below. The Terror Beast clan holds a spiritual object in their hands, but are they unwilling to sell it? Jia Yan looked meaningfully at the old man from the Vago tribe who was the latest to interact with him. The uncertain look on his face made the other person break into cold sweat. Senior, it's really not me, the Vago clan, who is causing trouble in this matter. I believe you. Jia Yan said calmly. Immediately, the two sides started a new round of discussion on the intelligence of the so-called Horror Beast clan spiritual being that they encountered again. The result is very simple. It is impossible for the other party to hand over the spiritual object, because the spiritual object has been regarded as a racial treasure by the other party and placed in their clan library. Moreover, the other party has said that even a powerful person cannot break them. Treasury, which is obviously aimed at Jia Yan. Of course, Jia Yan no longer wants to investigate too much about whether the Vegas tribe played a role in adding fuel to the fire. In short, the horror clan does despise its own existence. As a force without fake power, it dares to target stronger people like this. If Jia Yan can swallow this anger, he will have cultivated this strength in vain. Of course, the more important thing is that the other party holds what Jia Yan needs and is unwilling to hand it over amicably, so there is no way to solve it by force. The next day, witnessed by many Vago masters who followed him, Jia Yan embarked on the journey in person. And a week passed in the blink of an eye. Jia Yan has been on the road all week. After arriving at the other party's territory, his expression changed slightly, and he immediately showed a smile that was exactly the same as before. Terror Beast Tribe, if you dare not give me the reward you agreed upon, I will fulfill my promise and destroy your entire race. Of course, but this senior, do you have confidence in defeating that devil? There are many people in this clan who are opposed to my move. Who objects? Let him come to see me in person. They are not just demons, but I want to see if they are as powerful as the legends say. Jia Yan felt that among the terrifying beasts, there was a master who was about the level of a fake great master, who was waiting for him. And at the same time that he felt the other party also felt his arrival. It turns out that the legend is based on facts. Your so-called demon is as powerful as the legend. A figure flew up from below the ground, accompanied by a large number of so-called terror beasts. The figures of the terror beast clan are like little chickens. If people on Earth were here, they would probably burst into laughter. But as a serious interstellar master, Jia Yan has seen many similar jokes in Interstellar, and he can hold back his laughter. But that master was different. He felt that the opponent was extremely strong and his whole appearance was like a whale. The length from front to back is more than 20,000 kilometers, and it is a proper planet-level life form. You are the horror clan, right? Jia Yan didn't even look at the whale, but looked at all the horror clan life forms indifferently, and said coldly, while I'm still not angry, give me what I need, hand over the property. Other than that, I don't care about the grudges between you and the Vago clan. Humph, friend, you don't take me seriously enough, don't you? The whale creature might have been running rampant for a long time. He was immediately angered by Jia Yan's ignoring attitude and wanted to take action with a sinister expression on his face. But before that, he had already felt that the entire sky was under the control of some strange aura. This is the power of formation derived from Jia Yan. You know, Jia Yan is a serious practitioner of cosmic power. His formation power naturally needs to be the most powerful in the cosmic power environment. The environment here may not be a complete cosmic power environment, but it is definitely much stronger than other world regions. The formation path has been greatly enhanced. So the moment they met, Jia Yan had turned this territory that should have belonged to the enemy into his own home ground. Do you think that with this little formation method, you can make me regress? The whale was quite strong, and he suddenly muttered something solemn. Such a behemoth actually took the mage route. Bear. The miserable green color of heaven and earth was born. Do you think that I have been here for so long without making some preparations? I advise you to go back and forth wherever you go. Does a mere outsider really think that our Gomo continent is the place where you can take whatever you want? Humph. Whale C is still a xenophobe. Jia Yan remained silent while he was rambling, while a group of Vago masters beside him fell into shock and disbelief after feeling each other's power. They had long heard that this horror clan might have a powerful backer, but they didn't expect the rumors to be true. Immediately, they hesitated for a moment. The senior from the ancestral land beside me and others wouldn't give up on this spiritual object, right? If they give up or regress, the strength that the Vago clan has finally built up will be gone. Unexpectedly, before they could even think about whether to persuade Jia Yan, pieces of formation power suddenly turned into reality in the space. Jia Yan naturally knew that the Vegas tribe used his name to walk in the southeast corner, and what they needed was his invincible name. If you regress here, the effect of collecting spiritual objects in the future will definitely be greatly reduced. After all, there are just no great powers here, but it does not mean that the races here will not have contact with outside powers like the Terror Beast clan. It is impossible to suppress the same level in one battle. Each race will probably exert pressure with the power behind it, and Jia Yan's chance of quickly obtaining spiritual objects will be reduced to the minimum. So not only did he have to fight, he also had to fight as cleanly and neatly as possible. It would be best to kill this person who dares to obstruct his own way, as a warning to others. Huh? Do it? How dare you? The giant whale also didn't expect Jia Yan's temper to start without speculation. His expression changed instantly. But it's too late. The entire space, which was originally green and full of enemy domain power, was shrouded in some kind of blue light. This is a formation that I have created myself over the years. It is different from the formations in your world. I would like to ask this friend of the same level to give me some advice. The voice of old god Jia Yan was filled with sonorous and powerful murderous intent. What's your own creation? Why don't you learn from me, huh? The whale was also discerning. When he saw the azure formation swallowing up his own domain, he sneered and sneered, saying that Jia Yan's formation was based on the formations of their other world. Jia Yan will not deny this. But as he spoke, the blue formation suddenly changed its shape. The blue is no longer blue, but has become a vast expanse of black and white. This black and white color is like the positive and negative that are incompatible. It seems that there is no such incompatible thing in the world, but the giant mosquito in front of you has accommodated them into a means of fighting. Black and white formation. This is the strongest formation path after Jia Yan transformed into formation path genes. If the previous azure formation was not far from his pre-transformation ability, then the current black and white formation is a display of Jia Yan's strongest formation power. Such a terrifying formation. Swallow it to me. The whale's expression changed several times. He knew that he really couldn't get any better today. As a powerful person, he was only one level away from the myth. It had been a long time since he had experienced the feeling of fighting against someone of the same level. I felt it today. If he cannot effectively suppress this formation, the dragnet he has laid out will be ineffective. If it were an ordinary domain master or a master-level master, seeing this level of formation, the first thought would probably be to run away. But it's different when the opponent is at a powerful level. What they think about is how to break the formation. Large expanses of green light rose over the surrounding land. Countless horrors fell into an absolute life and death crisis without realizing it. Screams and roars were endless. Those green mist-like things can corrode everything. Even the black and white formations showed a relatively obvious sense of corrosion at the first moment of contact. Jia Yan's heart skipped a beat, knowing that the mighty one is the mighty one. Even the fake great power in this world is by no means a person who can exist instantly. But haven't he faced too few high-level masters recently? Fire elves and wood dragons can all be classified as powerful according to the levels of this world. He won them all. Want to devour my formation? I'm afraid you don't have such good teeth. Time rules, wake up. Suddenly, the other party's expression became extremely ugly again. And the power of rules? This guy is indeed a demon, extremely troublesome, but do you think you alone have the power of rules? The effect of the time rule is applied to the formation, making the crumbling formation instantly seem to speed up. Both regeneration and attack are several times more powerful. This way, it can naturally overwhelm the enemy's methods. But the whale creature swallowed the air in one mouthful, and then spewed out a large amount of airflow, forming a hurricane, which changed the entire war situation. This wind became the wind rule. The large swathes of crazy volume, even the black and white formations, produced endless pressure and were about to be torn apart. The rules of power. Jia Yan's face was expressionless. Once again, the power of another new rule is applied. Is there a new power of rules? Are all demons such monsters? There are several powers of rules. Are their talents really as good as legends? The great whale felt that the pressure suddenly increased. He has an extremely long lifespan, and his use and research of the rules of wind has reached a state that is close to Tao. He can detect the rules used by the tiny mosquito in front of him. All of them are extremely weak and cannot be compared with himself. but using several of them at the same time was a bit too much for him. As a powerful master with a long life, he has many methods. Look, you little thing still has some power of rules. The whale fiercely pulled out a whale fin, turned into a ball of flame, and crashed straight into the direction of Jia Yan. It seemed that he was going to use this unique attack to directly kill Jia Yan. A powerful weapon. Jia Yan was very interested. This was the first time he had seen a weapon that could provide such a huge blessing to the powerful level. The so-called magic weapon he made actually requires the blessing of his own talent in order to pose a threat to other powerful beings. It is not on the same level as the weapons this guy displays. But it's just that you happen to have a fire attribute weapon. It seems that this weapon will soon have a more suitable owner. Jia Yan laughed grimly. Raging. A ball of flame formed on the surface of Jia Yan's body, turning into a huge flame shockwave that was swirling around the clouds. It separated from the body in the black and white formation and merged with the large sea of fire rolled in by the opponent. You actually have a talent for fire rules. The whale creature's eyebrows twitched wildly at this moment, finally realizing what an exaggerated existence it had provoked. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3504. Latest website, it's okay to have the same rules. Those with the power of 2 rules can be regarded as extremely talented people in their category. And having 3 talents is already an extraordinary person. Is there anyone who would be born who would not shock the whole continent? Not to mention that this demon even created a formation that was similar to the power in their world, but it was fundamentally different. Bear. The flames superimposed a large amount of time and force rules, and under the transmission of the formation, they quickly attacked the fins used by the whales. Click click click. The whale's fin seemed to be hit head-on by something hard, and both sides made a weak sound. But Whale Almighty's expression turned ugly again. Because the opponent only had ordinary strength, and he actually used weapons. In this way, the strength of both sides has already been seen at this point, and he is far apart. If the weapon is broken, he will never be an opponent. Besides, this weapon is his lifeblood. Snort. The whale creature first showed an attitude of fighting to the death with Jia Yan. Immediately, he suddenly put away his weapon, letting Jia Yan hit the air with all his strength, and he himself flew straight towards the rear. Although he was an extremely huge whale creature, his series of movements were astonishing and extremely fast, making Jia Yan unable to react. Good guy, you just ran away. Jia Yan paused slightly, and a chill appeared on his expression again. The so-called top experts now seem to be just ordinary people. He has encountered too many such opponents in the past. If you think you can escape so easily in front of me, you would be looking down on me too much. Jia Yan's voice soon appeared in this person's ears. You still dare to pursue me? Do you know how long I have been preparing in this area? If you dare to pursue me, you will have to pay the price. This whale creature has an air of madness. As he muttered, pieces of sea water emerged in the air. The land of endless ocean looks like a world where the air turns into sea water. But from Jia Yan's perspective, this sea water is not that simple. Poisonous. You may have something in common with Kalen. But I won't be sensitive. Jia Yan's resistance to poison can be said to be quite high. The days spent with Kalen were not in vain. He has been training with Kalen for a long time. Kalen used her poison ability on Jia Yan more than once to test Jia Yan's poison resistance. Of course, this is within Jia Yan's control, and he will not do anything stupid that makes Kalen kill him inexplicably and gain points. And under that operation, Jia Yan roughly knew his poison resistance. Puff. A sheet of sea water came to Jia Yan's giant mosquito body. How about it? Even if you won't die, the smell of the sea water is not pleasant. I can still do it by delaying you for a while. The whale creature spit out a ball of water flames from its mouth and accelerated again in an instant. He had no idea that this poisonous water could kill Jia Yan. If it were so easy, Xiang wouldn't escape. Once you have mastered the existence of 3 rules, your methods can be said to be ever-changing. Just like 1 + 1 = 2, it depends on how you combine it. But 3 things can be 2 + 1, or 1 + 1 + 1. In this way, there are many more combinations, and these combinations can eventually be transformed into various magical abilities. Maybe there is one among them that can cure the strange poison. He didn't dare to gamble. Poof. But a situation occurred that made the powerful whale creature furious. Peng. A breath of death bloomed in his seawater poison. You. The whale creature was so fierce that it looked like it was under a restraining spell, showing a shocking gaze in the sea water. Then, a tiny mosquito, bathed in the sea water but completely intact, walked gracefully, step by step, in the sky, approaching the stunned master. Death, the rules of life and death, you actually. The whale creature seemed to be under a restraining spell, motionless. If you look closely, you will see that his body has been completely imprisoned in the formation without even realizing it. Jia Yan's 4th rule was finally revealed. Oh, I didn't want to expose all the rules, but you are indeed a rare opponent. You can be proud of being able to die under my full strength. Jia Yan sighed softly. Next, some kind of strange sound sounded from the sea water that was invisible to the outside world. The sound sounded like a song or a soft chant, which made people drowsy. Jia Yan once again used another unique skill of his, the power of the field. After reaching the higher level of Domain Lord, the power of Domain was resurrected again and became one of their trump cards. And although the masters in the other world also have their own realm-like power, it is difficult to compare with the power of the realm. The fear and unwillingness in the whale's eyes became more and more intense. He never expected that he would not die if he had already achieved great power just once for the race he came out of. But I never expected that the so-called devil would be such a terrifying existence. But it was too late for him to say anything. The entire huge whale's body gradually became silent amidst this overwhelming sound like burning sound. His heavy eyelids gradually drooped. After living for a long time, he had never imagined that he would have such a tiring day. He was going to have a good sleep. This sleep lasts forever. Boom. The sea water between heaven and earth is like the ebb and flow of the tide, rising in an instant and receding in an instant. Along with it, there is the huge whale with a body that can reach 20,000 kilometers long. Like a mountain falling down. Old ancestor. The smashing of the whale creature made the Terror Beast clan, who still had confidence, feel collective grief. Only then did Jia Yan realize that this whale creature, which seemed to be out of reach with 8 poles, was actually a member of the Terror Beast tribe. Could it be that when the turkey-like Terror Beast developed into a powerful stage, it would transform into a whale? However, this matter is none of his business. No matter how he transforms, he will not pose any threat to Jia Yan. When they have another powerful person, he doesn't know how far he will be. The Terror Beast clan, your backer has been killed, can you hand over what I want now? I advise you not to be ignorant of good and evil. Jia Yan seemed to have done something trivial, but his eyes were fixed on the horror clan below. In fact, his mood was somewhat ups and downs. This is the first time that Jia Yan has killed a powerful master. Although he is just a fake powerful, he already has a hint of powerful means. Even Jia Yan cannot kill him so easily. He can be killed easily, which only shows that his strength is indeed enough to kill most of the so-called powerful people in the world. The panic of the horror clan is not enough to explain the current situation. In fact, even the Vegas tribe behind Jia Yan panicked. They never thought that this so-called senior of the Vago clan was really so powerful. What should I do if my old man turns out to be a peerless master? Should I shake, or should I shake? The Vegas tribe followed their heart. One by one they became arrogant. When they went down to receive the spiritual object from the horrible beast clan, there were not just one or two masters who went there. It's an entire army. Jia Yan watched from the side. This Vago clan followed him and waved the flag, which was regarded as a bit of hard work. It was okay to let them make some windfalls. Besides, he also needed the fate of the horror clan to give the entire southeast corner force a warning effect, otherwise no one would dare. Doesn't resisting mean that Jia Yan is too kind? Senior, this is the space spirit object we found. Also, over there are the belongings of the terror beast clan. After half a day passed, the top brass of a Vago army flew in front of Jia Yan and respectfully conveyed their harvest information. Oh? Didn't you keep some for yourself? Jia Yan asked casually. I don't dare. It's enough for us to be able to accompany our seniors to witness this shocking battle. We don't dare to ask for even a single stitch. That's all. Except for a few rare things, leave the rest to your clan. I'll go back first. Rewards and punishments are clear, this is the principle of Jia Yan's life. This Vegas tribe is quite effective in doing things, so he will naturally reward him. And the supplies he didn't need were the ones he used as rewards. Returning to the training center of the Vegas tribe, Jia Yan happily took out the spiritual objects obtained from the terror beast tribe. It's a pity. The orcs may have wasted their natural resources. The aura of the spiritual object has dropped a lot, and the effect may not be as good as the previous two. Jia Yan feels that his talent is quite good in terms of spatial attainments. If he can obtain a few more spiritual objects, he might be able to enter the category of spatial rules. You must know that Xiongben has already gone very far on the road of space, and he still needs a few pieces to develop the rules of space. This means that rules are really not something that people with mediocre talents can play around with. No wonder the whale's expression changed in such panic after seeing Jia Yan's 4 rules. Goodoo. Jia Yan seemed to have swallowed something, and a faint luster flashed in his mouth. This spiritual object was actually larger than Jia Yan's body, but when he swallowed it, it was like entering another world and quickly disappeared. This is the horror of top-level masters. Masters who have reached the level of 2 Jia Yan are no longer ordinary in size, and their strength can be clearly seen. Although there are definitely benefits to being bigger, the gap is no longer as huge as it initially seemed. Jia Yan swallowed a spiritual object. It was simple. Well, there is indeed a partial space picture, but the picture is not clear and there is not much content. Jia Yan felt disappointed, then calmly stopped swallowing, realizing the harvest. Although the harvest is not big, it is also for other spiritual objects. This time the space spiritual object is destined to bring him closer to the path of space. Call. The training place where the giant mosquito was located quickly turned into some kind of spatial chaos. Many of the Vago people who approached felt like they were entering a maze. They were so dizzy that it took several days before they could get out. After the senior Vago tribe members learned of this incident, they issued a document overnight, prohibiting ordinary Vago tribe members from approaching this area. Also let Jia Yan practice for tranquility. A week passed quietly. This day, Jia Yan let out a breath. The giant mosquito body shook its wings. The body is like an arrow leaving the string, bursting into the subspace in one breath. Half a stick of incense had passed before his figure walked out of the subspace. Sure enough, it is still impossible for me to break through the so-called mainland formation before breaking through the rules of space. His thoughts were racing. Only now did he know that the huge formation formed around the central continent was built to stabilize the entire other world. The founder was not the original top master who created the other world, but another person. A mighty one. There is a gap in strength between the two sides. Jia Yan can at least understand the flaws in the formation of the one behind him. There's just no way to break it. I guess when I complete the space rules, I can easily break through this formation and enter the inner world behind. He even had extravagant hopes. I'm thinking about what the innermost subspace of the world will be like. Senior. Senior. Something's wrong, Senior. Those spiritual beings, those spiritual beings. When Jia Yan was looking forward to the future, an inappropriate voice sounded. Jia Yan looked up. In his retreat, outside the formation, the old man from the Vago tribe who contacted him was anxiously wandering around. What happened? Are you in such a panic? Jia Yan was as cold as ice and regained the cold look that a strong man should have. The door opened, allowing the old man to enter. Senior, something happened to the spiritual creature. After the old man entered, he blurted out the matter anxiously, regardless of whether Jia Yan was angry or not. Sure enough, Jia Yan's expression changed immediately after hearing this. He just came to the southeast corner and absorbed 3 spiritual objects, and one with average effect. What's wrong now? Explain it to me carefully. Jia Yan calmed down. No matter what happened, it must have been a long time before it reached him. There was no point in being anxious now. He might as well listen to the whole story. The old man spoke eloquently, and when he heard the whole, Mosquito eyes were filled with disbelief. When Jia Yan swallowed the 3rd space spiritual object. This southeast corner was originally a crumbling cosmic force, but it was shaking. In recent days, it was like spring snow melting, and it suddenly dissipated faster. This is an insignificant matter to Jia Yan. Although it may cause the future demise of the Vago clan, it has nothing to do with him. Presumably the Vegas tribe also knew this, so they didn't come to Jia Yan. But what happened immediately made the Vago clan executives unable to sit still. Actually, the last time Jia Yan easily killed a top powerhouse, it had caused an uproar in the entire southeast corner. Countless races were frightened when they heard this, including those who possess space spiritual objects. There are not too many space spiritual objects in this area, but there are also quite a few. And when they knew that possessing space spiritual objects would possibly provoke the devil, none of them could sit still. Many forces, under the banner of friendship, personally sent spiritual objects to the Vago clan.